Hey, Audio Road listener, what is your profit per mile? How about your cost per mile? Or even your bottom line? Stop driving blind and know your numbers. Profit Gauges is absolutely simple bookkeeping specifically for owner-operators. Have instant access to business and tax reports that will help you increase your profits and keep your money in your pocket where it belongs. Sign up for Profit Gauges today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial. Know your numbers and master the journey. Visit our website at letstruck.com or call our Tribe Care Team at 855-800-FUEL. That's 855-800-3835.
Your money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Friday, November 22nd. We are here live. It's time for a free-for-all and some efficiency. Efficiency is a big thing now. We have a whole agency in the government that's going to handle efficiency. I can't wait to see that. And I can't believe it, but everybody's here on time this morning. So I'm just going to bring everybody in and we can start talking over each other right away. Good morning, guys.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, everybody's on time today. What's going on?
Well, I just happened to still be up. I had a 14-hour turn yesterday, and so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to stay up and do the show.
There you go. That's dedication. I like to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Henry, what's your excuse for being on time?
Well, I got to go now. No, just got home at a normal hour and woke up after a decent night's sleep. Everything's good.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
I did have a story I came across in the last week or so, speaking of efficiency and hauling freight, that's got us probably pretty all beat for overhead and everything else.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So this guy, I follow this one page that's with the KLR 650 adventure type bike. And he drove a big Volvo and he parked it. He was done. And him and his KLR and a tent, he took off across the country, and he's stopping wherever he is, and he's doing DoorDash to raise his funds, and he's staying at every national park in the country.
That's pretty exciting.
So he's still delivering freight, right? Won't he have a heck of a story to tell at the end of that, though?
That's
I
right.
can't say I'm ready. It's sort of like tiny living on and following his story a little bit of the weather looks like coming across the country on an app looks like it's going to be bad. He puts 6 gallons in his KR and he's, over 300 miles away and just misses it and just stays where the weather's perfect for him. He's like created his own little utopia.
Yeah. I saw something the other day, the Baja 1000, some 17-year-old wanted to do it, but I think he might be a type 1 diabetic. I forget what the issue was. And his mom said, no, I don't want you out there all that time when I don't know what's going on. And he set it up so that he had a Starlink Mini strapped onto the top of his helmet, and he was live streaming the whole time. So his mom let him do it.
All right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So he rode the Baja 1000 on a motorcycle with a Starlink Mini strapped to his head, live streaming it. That's kind of cool.
That's real cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, at this guy, I'm like, well, he's still delivering freight.
Yeah. Somebody told me something the other day, and I was a little shocked by it. That they said they knew several or many, I forget the word they used, owner-operators where things were so rough, they had parked the truck and they were doing DoorDash and Uber and that kind of stuff instead. And I thought, my brain can't even comprehend that. But
yeah,
really? I mean, because I know what these guys on DoorDash make. In the beginning, there were a couple people that were doing relatively well. until the market got flooded, which it will, and that's just how that works. There's not a ton of money in that. It's not a bad second gig if you can put it together while you're going to school. But I can't imagine why you would park a vehicle that has the potential to make $100,000 a year net. I still have lots of people doing that right now. And instead, go work, honestly, harder for less than half of that, maybe only about a quarter of that. I don't get
Kevin.
that. Yeah.
Kevin, that's what we do in trucking. We work harder, not smarter. So you should fully expect that kind of thing to happen.
I thought, you got to be kidding me. I don't understand. You have the vehicle. You're parking it. Just figure out how to operate it profitably.
And probably parking it, and it's not paid for.
Right.
Which then on top of that, your fixed costs go through the roof. But, the story of this guy, he's kept his overhead low. He shows his settlements for a day. He usually seems like he does right around $200 a day. But, he doesn't have any expenses.
Nothing major, right? But, and what he's doing, I totally get. I think that's an awesome idea. What a great way to see the country, what he's going to have. I had a similar idea when we first got the Sprinter. You can't get into most state parks with the coach that we travel in. So we hardly ever stay at a state park. But I wanted to do that because there's so many of the state parks that I have been to that I've really enjoyed, and I'd love to do them all. I thought about pulling a small trailer behind the Sprinter and hitting all the national parks. I had the same idea. We would have just kept working, through it. But I think that makes sense. But this idea that trucking is so bad, I'm going to park my truck and go deliver McDonald's, I just don't get that.
Talking about didn't do it because of that. He did it because
he wanted an adventure. Yeah, that makes much more sense.
Yeah. But I found it interesting. He's still delivering freight.
Yeah. He's part of the final mile crew now.
Yep. And that's pretty efficient to be doing that on a motorcycle.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I've had some of my food delivered look like it was run over by a motorcycle.
Yeah, me too.
You sure it was a motorcycle damage? It was probably a fleet.
Actually, on this last trip when I was in Nashville at NASTIC, I had avoided any of that kind of stuff. I wasn't having things delivered. I was trying not to eat out as much as I could. And then I stayed extra days. And on the final day, finally, I had run out of food. I didn't feel like going out to the store. So I decided to do the DoorDash thing. It was the single worst experience I've had with food. I swear everything about this order was messed up. What wasn't just wrong wasn't even edible. And I thought, so I called DoorDash. Well, the DoorDash has a thing right in there where you can dispute it. So DoorDash actually refunded me for mistakes that weren't theirs. There was nothing wrong with the delivery itself. They delivered the food just fine. It was on time. It was, everything was in good shape. It was the restaurant all the problems were from the restaurant. But I could not get a hold of the restaurant. I couldn't even find their phone number. I was searching everywhere, could not find a phone number for this restaurant. Finally, I did find it and called them and got voicemail. Nobody ever bothered to call me back, but I did a dispute thing through DoorDash. And if something was completely missing, like I'd ordered bacon on the burger, I didn't get bacon, then there was something else, and they actually refunded me for the food. I thought that's kind of odd. I was not contacting them because I wanted a refund from them. I was contacting them to let them know how bad this restaurant was, and if there was any way I could contact the restaurant.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was bad, really bad. Speaking of efficiency, isn't it kind of cool that this show is all about efficiency, and now we have a whole new It's the first time I'm actually excited about a new government agency being created.
It's odd that we call it an agency, though. I mean, nobody's being paid. It's just a couple of
It's
smart
actually
guys
a couple of
throwing out
consultants.
ideas.
Yeah,
So
it's just it's a
I
couple
don't
of
know. Is
consultants,
it
right?
officially an agency?
Right. Well, hopefully not. That's actually even better because really I could say I'm not excited about an agency being created. Nothing's being created. Nothing's being spent. And I was watching Vivek the other day, and he said some of these agencies can be eliminated with executive order. I'm kind of shocked by
I
that.
I I heard that, and I agree with you. I don't think we should call them an agency. It's very similar to the work I do, say with a Volvo.
Yeah,
If
that's a
I
good
was
point.
part of the Volvo corporate staff, I'd be very limited at what I could actually do. Being that I am an independent consultant, you know what? I can have discussions with the Cummins guys and with the Navistar guys, and
Yeah.
it frees me up to do a whole lot of things that I could never do if I was, on the corporate payroll. So I kind of like the idea that they're not really an agency. It just gives them freedom to do things that government agencies can't. And I guess if we start referring them to as an agency, then people are going to want to regulate them.
Regulate the
Well, think
regulators.
about
I know.
well, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about what's going to happen. They're going to piss a lot of people
Oh,
off,
they
and they're
already
going to say,
are.
"Oh, you're calling it an agency.
Right.
Here are new rules for agencies," and
Yeah.
so they should just be outside consultants and shoot the big guns right in there and kind of remain untouchable, so to speak, as much as possible.
I'm
I
hearing
I
a lot
heard
of
that
people. Go ahead, Henry.
The Department of Diversity or whatever the heck they call them, they're going to quit if the defense secretary gets through, or Secretary of Defense, and 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 the fake said, "Good, we won't have to fire you."
Yeah, well, there's a lot of agencies claiming, and they're threatening it, and here's how unself-aware they are. They're threatening as though these two care about whether they work there or not. Don't they understand the whole point of these two is to get rid of people like them? So you have no bargaining power threatening to leave when that's the whole point.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
that's
I'm
just
thinking about
feeding the process along.
Right.
from hauling freight to hauling furniture because of all the people that are moving out of the country and all the people that moved out of DC. I think at least invest in one of the moving lines out of DC because
Yeah, there might
Well,
be a
Henry, I don't know. None of them show up to work anyway.
yeah, that's true
Ever since
too.
the pandemic, I mean, they don't go to work as it is. So you
You
might go
know,
broke doing that. I don't know.
you
no,
know,
but and I think it'll improve the traffic because all these people that aren't going to work, I think they spend their day driving around the loop.
well, I think they all go to
You're probably
Starbucks.
right.
I think
It's,
they just bounce from
it's busy all
Starbucks to
day.
Starbucks.
Yeah, because it's busy all day. I'm like, when do these? Joe, you've been driving long enough, so have I, and Kevin. You've been around a few. It used to be there was morning rush hour and all that, but the amount of cars I see driving around during the day. Remember, it used to really die off because people got to
You,
work.
well, you used to have patterns. You knew the traffic was heading into the city in the morning and out of the city at night. I mean, everybody worked in the suburb or lived in the suburbs, worked in the city, and we're on the same kind of schedule. But you're right. You don't see that anymore. Now you just see traffic all the time.
When I'm going down the road, I'm like, all these people cannot be outside sales.
Yeah. Does outside sales even exist anymore?
Yeah, it does with the truck dealers and all. Yeah, it does. They still go out and do.
Yeah, I know. It's not nearly what it used to be. Well, for one reason, we don't manufacture like we used to. Now, that is supposed to be coming back. That's the good news. Joel, I don't think I've talked to you since I was at NASTIC, have I?
And you have not.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Donald Broughton. Have you ever seen
Mhm.
Donald speak? I know, Henry, you have.
I have not.
my.
So what image do you get when you hear you're about to sit through a presentation by a financial analyst?
You're going to take a power nap while this
Yeah,
is going
pretty
on
much,
normally.
right?
Yeah.
There's going to be lots of
Not with David.
charts and not with Donald on stage. I said the other day, it's like somebody took a financial analyst and crossed him with Anthony Robbins.
Oh, wow.
He
That
is
should be interesting.
incredible on stage. He's got so much energy and he's bouncing around and he's yelling at times, and but he makes sense. I mean, he really explains things well, but he's just so animated and he's just a really, really good speaker. But his message overwhelmingly was, we are in for 10 to 15 years of more prosperity than any of us have seen in our lifetime.
Well, good. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And he explained why and immediately said it's not the tariffs that will have an impact on this, but he said the bigger reason is that America is about to go back to manufacturing a lot of stuff. But the reason is, which we kind of come back to this whole efficiency thing. We've talked about the fact that that's the only way to grow the economy, either create new products and new industries or become more efficient in the ones you already have. It's the only way to grow the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this whole idea of trying to get the government more efficient is a really good idea. But we will start manufacturing again because of automation. The reason we don't manufacture here is labor. That's it. Nothing else. Because everything about manufacturing stuff in Southeast Asia is complicated. You got a big complicated supply chain. You've got, the cost of moving all the goods around, but up until now, that cost has been less than paying people in first world countries. Labor is just too expensive. But if we automate so much of this manufacturing, which is we're now capable of, and you take the labor part out, we can now manufacture cheaper here because we take all the transportation cost out of it. And that's really good for trucking. When we manufacture stuff in other places, we don't get many moves. Stuff's packed into a container. We offload it and usually sometimes only move that container one time and then we're done. Whereas if we're manufacturing it here, we will have multiple moves for all of these products.
So I 100% agree with that. The one thing that we have to be careful of, though, and hopefully we're going to get this under control, is when we're importing all these low-skill people over the border, that becomes problematic because now we've got all these extra people that we need jobs for. So if we can kind of push back a lot of the people that came that are not supposed to be here, kind of get the population back to where
that's a good point.
To be. I think the automation could be a good thing, but if we don't get that under control and then we have automation coming, now you're going to have a huge unemployment problem and you're going to have everybody wanting to draw benefits from the government, and that could become problematic. So I think those two things run hand in hand. Really tightening up the borders and then getting automation into the manufacturing process, and then I think you're right. I think we'll see some really good prosperity moving forward.
Well, when they say that, with some of these businesses that left, we've been picking up and delivering. Well, so are you, Kevin. At one point, you could see where not just forget about the labor. If the labor price was exactly the same per hour, the inefficiency that you did at many of these places. I remember you'd pick up a steel coil. How long does it take to set a steel coil on a trailer? Well, you'd wait 4 to 6 hours for the paperwork on the coil.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt we need to tighten up, efficiency across the board, but it looks like it's coming. Now, there's two schools of thought on where this could all lead. One that I absolutely hate is this idea that we will automate so many jobs that there will be too many people and not enough jobs. And then people start talking about this idea of universal basic income, where we just pay you to exist because the machines are doing all the jobs. That's a horrible idea. And we can look historically, and every time we put people out of work with machines, we end up with more work. That's always happened. Every time we have been automating entire industries for over 100 years and making things more efficient, which puts more and more people out of work, except we have more and more jobs every year. Why do we believe that trend's not going to continue?
So part of what I think is going on here when we talk about the universal basic income, I think that's a lot of the reason the border was opened up to begin with.
I think you're right.
So you could really make that
Yeah.
argument. So the two are tied together, and
Right.
it's that to me is fairly easy to see. So I guess this is going right along the line of thought that I was just talking about. You know, we've got to be very careful
Yep.
with the border, and people that are not supposed to be here. You know, they got to go home.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line, because we can set up all of these, you know, efficiencies and all these operations, but if we continue to absorb excess population that's not contributing, it's going to be very difficult to make this work.
Yep. Sure is. I agree. What else we got today? Anything good?
I've got all kinds of stuff going on since we last talked.
All right.
Uh, Over on LinkedIn, I don't know exactly what's going on, but it seems like all of the, well, I don't want to say all, but a lot of other manufacturing brands have taken an interest in a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with the down speeding. And I've had several very, very interesting discussions with some senior Cummins engineers.
Ah.
And it's been great. These guys have been in the Cummins system for 25 and 30 years. The one gentleman actually retired. Now he is a consultant, and he is a fuel efficiency expert for Cummins. And we had great discussions.
I'll bet.
I mean, I love it when I get to talk to guys that know their shit at that level. It's awesome. You know, regardless of the brand, the guy really, really knows what's going on. And then there's a current active employee that's very high on the pecking order on the engineering side, and we've just had some just excellent discussions. I've been working on trying to put together a potential demo with a Navistar. Had a couple of trucks in. We've had a few issues that we're trying to work through that I'm not quite understanding. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but there's some issues there that I'm not comfortable with. It's refinement. I think they've got this really great powertrain that they've stuffed into this older chassis. It's an American chassis, and they've got this really advanced European powertrain. And I think there's some mounting issues and just integration issues that they're still trying to overcome. Some, you know, just refinement. They will get there, I have no doubt. I've got to talk to some senior people over on that side, and they understand down speeding. Make no mistake, they get it.
Right. Right.
And I was surprised how well the guys at Cummins understood certain things, and you can see that's reflected in the new X15 that they're rolling out, where they did modify the rotating assembly and the coolant and a lot of things in the engine that, you know, we've been talking about for years, and I know we've taken a lot of heat over it, but they get it.
Yeah.
You know, they understand it, and so things are changing, and it's all for the good for owner operators. We're going to have a lot more solid choices. You know, in terms of downsped powertrains that are going to perform at a very, very high level. I think you're going to be able to pick Detroit, Volvo, Cummins, Navistar. You're going to have 4 very good choices that are all going to be capable of just outstanding fuel efficiency.
That would be awesome. And I know you have more, but I'm going to jump in there because this fits well with what you're talking about right now. And I know you were listening earlier this week. So this week, I had to argue both sides of the emissions. You heard me one day arguing for the emissions and screaming about stop deleting this stuff. This isn't some civil protest. That's kind of what they were making it sound like. Is well,
Sure.
this is like, I think somebody actually said it was a First Amendment issue. I'm like, come on, we can't make everything a First Amendment issue. This isn't about free speech. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
You're performing civil disobedience, but that's not what that is supposed to mean. Civil disobedience doesn't
hmm
mean you get to break whatever law you want because you're protesting the government. Yeah,
hmm
so you heard me argue that side that
You mean
no, I don't want to go backwards. I'm
hmm
not happy about the way it all happened, but we got through it and we're finally at a place where I'm happy, really happy with new trucks. I'm happy with the way they perform. I'm happy with the overall cost. I love the fact that you can leave them running in the shop and not even realize you left the truck running with all the doors closed. But
hmm
then yesterday I had a guest on.
hmm
She's the owner of a 35 truck fleet here in Oregon, and she's also in the
hmm
Oregon legislature. And
hmm
starting in just a little over a month, Oregon is
hmm
putting in mandates about how many electric trucks have got to be sold,
hmm
starting
hmm
already. We have one
hmm
supercharger in the state of Oregon, and the downtime on it is 50%.
Yeah, and this is really starting to get out of hand. So you've got I don't know if he's a senator from Nebraska or somebody. Now he's suing the manufacturers because they agreed to the state's rules
Yeah,
in each
yeah,
state. I mean that's just completely ridiculous. Just as dumb as that. You talk about wasting taxpayer money.
yes.
Right there, Doe should go kick him right square in the ass. That's just the dumbest thing
Yes.
that ever was.
Well,
But no, I agree with you. Mandates and well, here's the thing. First, we gotta kind of set the record straight on this whole emissions thing. So, Kevin, when did emissions hit the industry?
so my answer to this, the way I remember it, is somewhere around 2002, 2003. I can remember I was watching my fuel mileage so close back then. This when I was testing constantly, was always working on fuel mileage. And I had two of my trucks go into Detroit for normal stuff. I don't even remember what it was. And both of them came out
Mm-hmm.
getting worse fuel economy. And because I was paying attention to it, I noticed it. And the answer I got
Mm-hmm.
was they were required to go into the ECM and make some adjustments. Now, we didn't have
Mm-hmm.
EGR or any of that yet, but I was told that was kind of the first step towards emissions. And they actually kind of went backwards. This is what I was told. And they were just going into the ECM and making changes, and nobody was really talking about it. So that's kind of what I
So,
see as the first step that I remember.
okay, so emissions regulations in heavy duty trucks actually came into being in 1973.
Ah,
We
well,
had
there you
NOx
go.
emissions that we had to meet in 73. Now,
Yeah,
not many people know that because
nobody
everybody
knows that.
ignored it. Nobody
Right,
cared,
right.
including the manufacturers. Now, and Henry probably understands this. That was the beginning of the end for the two-stroke.
Oh, yeah.
It could not
Right,
even come close to meeting the NOx emissions that
right.
were laid out in
Sort of.
1973. So they were the first casualty of emissions. But here's the problem: everybody ignored it. The manufacturers ignored it for the most part. If you were close, close is good enough type of thing. And then when we got into the era that you're talking about, it was pretty easy to manipulate things for government testing and then have stuff switch back and
Right.
do something else to get better fuel efficiency. And it was just commonplace. All the OEMs done it. Nobody complained about it. And, EPA got pissed.
Not all of
And there
them
was
did
a
it.
huge,
There was one that
huge,
didn't.
well, there was a huge lawsuit out there, and the judge said, "Look, because you guys continuously do this, and you keep doing this as an industry, we're going to speed up implementation
I remember
of
that.
emission standards.
Yep, I do remember
And
that.
that is what really, really screwed us, was that accelerated emissions timeline. Now, look, I understand the judge thought he was punishing the OEMs by doing it, and actually he punished the whole industry, probably
Correct.
unintentionally. He probably didn't understand the consequences of his actions fully. But that, more than anything, really, really screwed us as far as that timeline implementation. We just didn't have enough time to figure things out, and we had to rush things into the marketplace, and it was painful for a long time. Um, unfortunately, a lot of times we're our own worst enemy. And
Most of the
and
time.
this is this is part of that. It's not just the big evil government coming putting their foot up our ass and telling us, "Oh, you can't do this." I mean, they tried legitimately multiple times. OEMs were busted for cheating the system, and it was just a known thing. They all done it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right, obviously, and so we've kind of have to take a little bit of that blame as well. It just wasn't some evil bureaucrat sitting in the government going, "I'm going to screw these truck drivers." That's not what happened.
But we could go back. I can play devil's advocate on this one too. We could go back because now with the Chevron deference case, we know that it was kind of a government agency that was given more power than it should have been given. Yes,
I agree.
Had we had a better system where people that understood these issues, like you said yourself, the judge doesn't understand what's going to happen in the real world. He doesn't understand the technology, the truck, the industry, none of that. And you can't expect him to. He's a judge. So the problem was the system was set up incorrectly. And I'm hoping moving forward, not only do we get rid of many of the alphabet agencies, but certainly not all of them. We need some of these. Like I said, that day, this isn't anarchy. I'm not an anarchist.
Yes.
I don't believe you can just let human beings run free and do whatever they want. There has to be some guardrails, a lot less than what we have now. I get that. But if we get back to that system where yes, the government is going to have some regulations around some of this stuff, but the industry needs to have more of a say. We need more people that are qualified, that understand what's going to happen in the real world. And I'm hoping we're heading in that direction now.
You are 100% right. Here's what we don't need more of. We don't need that bullshit. These rules are stupid. We don't need that attitude.
Correct.
I mean, obviously, you're 100% right. We can't have anarchy and chaos. Diesel emissions are not healthy. They just are not. Anybody that says they are, they're just stupid. I mean, that's just dumb. Do diesel emissions hurt people? They absolutely do.
Yes.
And as an industry, we need to embrace that and say, yep, this is not good. And our right to make a profit doesn't override somebody's right to breathe clean air. It just doesn't. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger. I'm not an environmentalist, but that's just the matter of fact. And we know that we can do this profitably and efficiently. We've proven that. And so the argument that, we should just override or be able to delete emissions because, it's our constitutional right, that's just nonsense.
Well, that was part of my argument.
You mean
yesterday was that we have worked, and when I say we, I don't mean the entire industry, but there's a part of the industry, and I think this show and the three of us are a pretty damn big part of it. We've worked decades to get these diesel engines to be clean and efficient, and we're there. It's pretty damn impressive what these trucks will do now. So now I feel Oregon, California, and Washington, all three have this rule coming into play. And it's not just Class 8 trucks. It's every vehicle from 2B up to Class 8, and not just commercial. RVs. They're going to there are no electric RVs on the market. None. Except somehow.
Yes, there is. I saw one.
Did you?
I saw one on Facebook.
How big was it?
There's somebody pushing that. I don't see how it would work, but they're pushing it.
Well, yeah.
You can pull a trailer with a generator on it.
Yeah, we could talk about all the problems with it, but starting in just a little over a month, a certain percentage of RV sales in Oregon, Washington, and California have to be electric. Ambulance,
Yeah,
tow trucks.
right.
Don't you think that'll lead towards people going towards the trailers versus the motorhomes?
Well, it won't matter because a 2B is a Ford F-250. Now you can still buy.
But there's a lot of used F-250s you can buy.
Right, but again, we should not be forced into those kind of decisions. That's not the right way to do this.
No.
The market. Market
what I'm
demand
hearing
should
from
control
talking
that.
all this, and I think these people think they're doing that when they have the pickup trucks and some of the big trucks that are doing the, as they call it, rolling coal.
Yeah.
Are they like trying to be like when women burnt their bras in the 70s and stuff?
That's what I earlier when they kind of made it sound like this is civil disobedience to delete your truck. I completely disagree with that. We're a nation of laws. When you don't like the laws, you got to work to change them. Now, I break all kinds of laws. We all do. But there are definitely limits, and this one, it's just stupid. I've seen people spend $10,000 to $15,000 to delete a truck, and then if you get caught and you have to put it back together, you're going to spend $10,000 to $15,000 again. It just doesn't make any sense.
You're going to spend more
to
than
do
that.
this. Well, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make any sense to do it and call it civil disobedience. You're going to risk your entire business over this?
Plus the fine.
Right. Whatever fine they might impose. Right now, it's just get the shops that are doing it. But what shocks me is how much money these shops are making. When they get sued over this, they release, they did $7 million worth of deletes or whatever the number was. I mean, it's crazy.
Here's one of the things that people may not be aware of. So when they go in and they bust these shops, they take that customer list.
Yes, they do.
And they know. So don't be surprised.
Right.
If somebody comes knocking on your door. You think, oh, they just busted the shop and I don't have anything to worry about. Listen, when there's rules and regulations on the book, this is just like saying I refuse to pay my taxes. You're going to go to jail. Eventually,
right.
You're going to go to jail.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's like I told you, Kevin. Well, you know what? I think I deserve $1 million today. I'm just going to walk into a bank and take it. Doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
Well, what I'm finding funny with this, because I knew somebody, and this was over on the pickup truck side with the delete thing and all that, but it reminded me of the speakeasies. Because the person that was stuff like that, training, secret handshake, pulling the link to your life 3 times, somebody will come out to talk to you kind of thing. Wasn't that far, but that's where it felt like it was going. I thought I was in some sort of spy novel.
Here's something to think about. And one of the arguments I kept hearing is, well, there's no victim. It doesn't hurt anybody when you delete a truck. So, and here's an example of environmental stuff going really bad. And if you go to like EPA's website, you can see the story about Love Canal. Kevin, you probably remember Love Canal up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
That was there were birth defects. People died over that. They essentially put a housing development, it's my understanding, on top of an old industrial waste dump from way back. And a lot of people really suffered because of that. In my little hometown, Monroeville here, there was a small, old time landfill that was in operation in the 50s and 60s along the bank of the Huron River. It was just essentially an old farm field that wasn't productive, and people just started dumping trash there. General Electric had a big light bulb plant the next town over, and they just started bringing their industrial waste over and dumping it in there. And nobody thought anything of it at the time. We just didn't know. And 25 years later, cancer in our area just skyrocketed. A bunch of young folks got cancer and died from it. And So they started testing the water here, and we actually had to construct our own reservoir, and they shut down the water intake from the
Yeah.
river, and we don't pull out of the river anymore. And there was some remediation that went on with that old dump, and it wasn't even that big. You know what I mean? And it was
Right.
just small.
Right.
So we think at the time, oh, this doesn't hurt anybody. It does.
Yeah.
And don't kid yourself and think that diesel exhaust, because we're outside, doesn't hurt anybody. Your individual truck, okay, maybe your individual truck, maybe not. But when you add all the trucks in the country together, people are being harmed by diesel exhaust. That's just
Absolutely.
the bottom line.
Right. Right.
You know,
And if we can
and I
fix
wonder
that,
how
we
much
should.
it is to the new trucks that are now, because you know as well as I do, Joel, some of it to me, and mind you, I believe in doing this stuff, the Ranger Rick side of me. But at what point are they getting ridiculous? Because now they're having it that if the engine cools off too much going downhill, that it can't do that. In that little that 2-second whatever transition period where it builds heat again. No, we can't have that, and that the DPF got to be coming up. It's got to be warm before it even starts.
This will come back to getting rid of the current system of alphabet agencies with lifetime appointed bureaucrats that know nothing about the industries they're regulating. That's how we get this kind of bullshit stuff that goes way beyond just being a little more efficient and a little more clean. It just becomes stupid. And hopefully if we could get the direction we're going, where we don't give unlimited power to these agencies, we get more people involved that know what they're talking about. I think that's where this kind of stuff comes from.
So, and there's another aspect to look at this too, Kevin, and I know you know this. So, when you're looking at this and they want us to transition into electric, and we're driving trucks right now that, depending on what area of the country you're in, a lot of times the air coming out of it or the exhaust is cleaner than the air that it's sucking in.
Talked about that.
So what better way to drive you into a particular type of vehicle than to make the one you're driving overly complex to force you into electric? And they see the numbers on this, and people that have the agenda that want all electric trucks, they see that what me and Henry are doing, there's no way that you could cost justify an electric truck.
Not
they
even
see
close.
That.
Not
So,
even close.
okay, how do we make the electric trucks justifiable? Let's make the internal even more complex, even though they're very, very good at this point. So, right, there's some common sense, and you're right. We've got people that are appointed to these agencies. Pete Buttigieg, in my opinion, is a great example. What in the hell does this guy know about transportation?
Nothing. And
honestly,
and
he was mayor of Fort Wayne.
Look, let's also say this, because there was this talk just a week or so ago about, oh boy, the government wants people from industries to help, and they're going to be appointing. So this whole thing happened on X, where somebody said, well, Kevin should be the Secretary of Transportation. And then somebody else said, well, no, how about Craig Fuller at FreightWaves? And I actually thought about it and said, well, first off, I don't want the job. And honestly, I am nowhere near qualified for that job. My focus has been so on one segment of one industry in transportation. It's been on trucking only, and on the very, very small side, owner operators and small carriers. That's where I've focused forever. I don't understand shipping, barges and air freight and freight forwarders. And I don't understand that part of the industry, and I don't want to have to go learn it. But I said, Craig actually is very qualified for this job. And if he were to get it, I'd be willing to work as an outside advisor. And you know what? I don't want a title and I don't want to get paid. But I would be willing to say, look, I can help you understand this segment of this industry. But I don't have the qualifications to run the Department of Transportation. But I'm more qualified than Petey is. That's not saying much, though.
Right. And
I was thinking about you this week, Kevin, because I was wondering, because I knew you talked about helping there if you could, but how about helping JFK and Oz on the other end with the food supply?
You know, I certainly could, but honestly, there are so many really qualified people that could do that now too, that I don't really see the need for me in there unless it was some specific program about how to keep our nation's truck drivers healthier. But as far as overall health in the population, they've already reached out to so many really good qualified people.
So the guy that has the appointment, that's Sean Duffy, correct?
Right. Right.
From
Yeah.
Wisconsin. Uh, I don't think this guy has a transportation background at all. Now, smart enough guy. There's no doubt about that, and hopefully he does reach out to people that understand the industry and pulls for different segments, so he has a complete understanding. And sometimes that's what's necessary. The guy maybe isn't an expert in transportation, but is damn good at putting together the
That
team.
Mhm.
well,
Then letting the team do the work, and then he can just
if
administer it all. Hopefully, that's what's going to happen here. It doesn't appear that's what happened with Buttigieg.
not even
If there
close,
was
right?
if there was a team working behind the scenes, they were awful.
Right. Well,
And there's just no other way to explain that.
we can take a lesson from business on this. Really good CEOs, I've seen it, can run companies in almost any industry. Give them enough time, they'll get up to speed on that industry. Their skill is running large organizations. That
Sure,
Right.
becomes
right.
a skill in and of itself. And I've talked about that. Every time in my lifetime, and I've been, I guess, building companies since I was 16 when I first started painting cars. Every time it starts to grow, it gets to a point where I don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't have the skills to run a big organization. I don't even have the
Kevin,
skills to run a medium-sized organization.
you know what? I'm bumping up against this stuff right now. My
Yeah.
my testing and
It,
consulting's kicking ass, and
it,
now I got to have more trucks than what I want. I'm like, God damn it! I didn't
yeah,
get into this
I know. Well,
I'm exactly like
Yeah,
you. I'm like, what
I
the hell am I
agree
doing here?
100%.
I came to the
Yep.
conclusion quite a while ago, and I talked about it on the air. I said, if I wanted to grow our current company, I would have to hire a CEO because I can't do it. That I don't want to do it. I
Yeah.
don't want to learn those skills. I actually know what you need to be good at that. And I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to spend my day. So if I wanted to grow this, I would have to hire a CEO.
Well, it's kind of the reason that I got Alec involved in things, and even with him involved, now he's getting pulled in 50 different directions, and I'm doing
But
exactly what you're talking. I got to go in and do the shit that I didn't want to do in
right,
the first
right. Well,
place. But
here Alec
and
is,
it's
having
just yeah.
Alec is kind of like I have Lisa and Aaron, but none
Hmm.
of the three of us have the skills to
Hmm.
grow this or want to. Aaron does his
Hmm.
thing and he's really good at it. Lisa, I would say, is
Hmm.
more like a COO. She runs the
Hmm.
daily operation, but that's a very different role from a CEO. And none of us
Correct.
really
Yes.
so there's kind of like nobody really leading the company. We just all kind of get together
I,
and make sure we're sort of on the right track, but we're not going to grow like that. You just can't. You have to have somebody in here that
right.
No,
has
you
Right.
those
can't.
skills.
You are so right. Your force of personality only goes so far.
Right.
And Kevin, you have that dominant personality when you are in a segment that you understand and know. Nobody's going to bullshit you, and you
Right.
just kind of have this grassroots feel for, okay, we need to do this, this, and this. But to actually, like, I look at my brother. He's got 100 trucks now, like 300 trucks. I don't want any of that. I see
You
the
know what
shit
it
he has
takes.
to go through
Right.
on a day. He works his friggin' ass off day after day after
Yeah.
day. I'm too damn lazy for that.
I
I
kind
don't
of
know.
I know I work a lot of hours, but I get to do exactly what I want to do. That's how we've set up this company. So
Hmm.
95, I would almost say 98% of my time now is either doing what I'm doing right now on the air or
Hmm.
doing a webinar or doing a coaching call. most of my time is working directly with the people we want to work with, our customers and clients. The rest of my time is spent on something else I love doing, reading and researching. And I don't need anybody else, but that is time consuming, really time consuming.
It is.
Speaking of reading, did you find Rickenbacker yet?
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I found it. The problem is I found 37 books with Rickenbacker in the title. Which one is it? One of them was all about guitars.
His autobiography that was printed in 1967.
All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on Amazon right now, and we're going to find it to make sure I get the right one. I was all set the other day. It was raining. I had the whole day, and I thought, I'm going to knock that book out today. And I went to Amazon, and I'm like, I have no idea which one I'm supposed to get.
I've just had a couple of friends read it, and it's funny because then they all keep calling me and reviewing through it on everything.
All right, so I see one here now, just titled Rickenbacker, and it was in 1967.
Yep.
That's the one?
Yep, let me go and see. I'm walking downstairs to the book to see.
All right, now I'm trying to see it. I have a feeling, Henry, you're going to make me buy a physical book here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
but it's good and it's worthwhile one.
It's not.
You will not be disappointed.
It's not available on Kindle, so let me see if I can at least find a. No, it's not even on paperback. You're going to make me buy a hardback. All right, let's check this out here. That's not too bad.
I haven't met anybody that's read it that's been disappointed or didn't feel as though the value was there in reading it.
You know, this is even more interesting. Right now, it doesn't even look like I can get an original new copy. I have to buy a used copy.
Oh, yeah, that's the only way you get them.
Yeah.
Used.
Huh. All right. Well, I'm putting it in my cart and I'm buying it right now.
All right.
All right. Here
but see, is that our treat for everybody being on time?
Yes. Yeah, that's
we all get a bonus.
All right. Looks like it's going to get here sometime between December 2nd and December 5th. So sometime after that, we'll talk about this book.
All right. I'm eager to do that.
All right. Let's take some phone. Hey, Joel, I know you've got a lot still. We'll try to work it in. We've had phone calls from the very beginning, so I want to get to some of these guys. Let's go to Wyoming. Mike, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What can we help you with today?
I have a couple of questions. I have a couple of questions for Joel. I have a 2015 Volvo, and Kevin, I've called in a few times trying to get this problem solved on this truck. With the ACM, an after treatment control module that I've been dealing with. And I have replaced everything. I have a PTT computer that I can go in there. It's from Diesel Laptops. And so and it told me, first it was ACM, the actual module. So I replaced that. That wasn't cheap. And then you have to program it and attach it to the serial number of the truck. And then it says, I still keep getting this reductant heater. And I've replaced everything. There's nothing more I can do. I'm at a point where, and I look for software updates and it says everything's up to date. But is there a time that, you can only get the updates from the dealership? Have you ever run into that issue?
I see. My brother has the full dealership level support in his shop.
And that's what I have too. I have all the rights. The only thing I can't do is rewrite used parts to put on the truck when they're.
Right.
I have to take the part and get them cleared at the dealership, and then I can reinstall them. But this was a brand new ACM that I got from Volvo. All the parts I just go through Volvo. I don't. Hell, even Volvo remanufactured parts are better than the junk that you can get on Amazon.
Right.
And they still come with a warranty.
And I'll tell you, even even the OEM stuff here lately, we've had some challenges with certain things putting it on, and it's bad right out of the box.
I
So
I ran into
that
one of
was,
those issues of a brand new one, and then I ended up getting
yeah,
a remanufactured Volvo part instead of
yep,
a brand new Volvo part, and the
yep.
remanufactured was better than the brand new part. It's kind of funny.
No, we're bumping up against that same stuff, and I think that's kind of an industry wide thing right now, where there's a quality issue. People are supply chain issues lead to quality issues, and it's been a little nuts lately. But I don't know the answer to your question is if there is a time where you actually, I guess you're going to have to get a hold of a dealer and ask them that question directly, because I
And
don't know.
and I did the one. I just have a hard time going there to the dealer because I had a problem with I was losing prime on my DEF pump one time,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they were like, "Oh, you need a new pump," and it was like $4,500, and I was like, "Well, I could get it to reprime." So then I went back to my shop and I tore it all apart, and I
Hmm.
found that the vent tube into the tank
Yes.
was
Yes.
clogged and
Yes.
causing lack of prime. It was
Hmm.
going to cost. It literally cost me no money to fix that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and it
Hmm.
was going to cost me. And so that's something that somebody should, if somebody loses their prime on their depth pump, you should look at that vent tube. It's very simple to repair,
Hmm.
and it costs no money. Um,
Hmm.
my other question is I have obviously my truck's a 2015 Volvo. It's a 455 XE, 750,
Hmm.
1750 torque,
Hmm.
and I got the 265 gears, which I absolutely love
Hmm.
this truck. Like it's performs very well,
Hmm.
and pulling mountains. Everybody that's around here, oh, that thing can go up mountains to save your life, and I'm like passing them up the mountain, and I'm like, yeah, you got a 550 Cat or a 605 Cummins, and I'm at 80,000 pounds, and I'm blowing right by you, and I'm not even working my truck. But what it's I feel like 64 miles an hour is the optimal speed for this. I'm not running that today because if I can pull this off today in 7 hours, I'll make 2,300 bucks.
Sure.
So I'm
Sure.
hauling
Yep.
ass. But
Yep.
what's really cool is I'm doing 76 miles an hour right now, and I'm at 1350 RPMs. So,
Hmm. Yep. Nice.
um,
Nice. Nice.
yeah. But typically, it seems like this. Am I driving this correctly? This
Yeah,
truck?
yeah,
I mean,
right. There's when you get to 264 with an overdrive, you have a fairly wide efficiency range. That's going to run anywhere from 55 to around 71 or 2 mile an hour, where it'll do very well. Today, if you're running, 75 or 76, you're right at the very upper limit of what that was
okay.
designed to do. But yeah, you're where you need to be. You know, these downsped powertrains, a lot of times we were taught, it's about boost, it's about EGT, and all these things that we looked at with traditional powertrains. All that shit goes right out the window. It just does. And just let the truck do its thing, and your primary mission is time and speed management at that point. And when you have to run, when it makes sense, like you're doing right now, 100%, run the hell
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
When it doesn't make sense, slow it down to as slow as you can go. The truck's going to take care of itself for the most part. You could run it as slow as 55, and you can run as fast as 75. So yeah, you've got a fairly efficient, especially for 2015. You got a fairly cutting edge setup there.
Yeah, and I run a step deck, and so my aerodynamics are garbage,
Hmm.
anyways.
Hmm.
But I got a full fairing. I took the dunce cap off of this thing. I'm running a 730 Volvo,
Yep.
and the mid roof, and it came with
Hmm.
a dunce cap.
Sure.
I paid 25 grand for this truck
Hmm.
last year. I don't know if Kevin remembers it. I was him hauling around it. It was a bank repo. I didn't know a whole lot of info on it, so I did a rig dig on it, and
Hmm.
I pulled the trigger on it, and what an amazing truck! Like this thing is just a badass truck.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
and so yeah, I did all the things. I did clean as, I mean, I could have ran the oil, but I didn't know. I wanted to start fresh. So, and then every 25,000 miles, I do an oil sample. I don't have an OPS on it or anything. I'm literally going to run this thing for probably 2 years and then unload it, you know, and so I'm not going to put a whole lot of money into it.
Sure.
But this is the second $25,000 truck that I bought, and both of them have been Volvos, and they've made me a ton of money. But anyways, yeah, just enough of this truck. And I agree with everything that you guys say, with the slowing down and time management. And like today, I'm just like, I mean, $2,300 in 7 hours. It's a pretty good payday. And
Sure,
Yeah,
sure,
it is.
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
but what's funny is I'm looking down. I obviously I won't have the data of what kind of mileage I'm going to do on this run, but my truck's saying I'm getting 7.4 miles a gallon running at this speed, and
Sure.
and it's
That's
not even
that's
working.
what's
It's not even
amazing.
working it.
So what is great about this conversation, and it just kind of dovetails in the conversation I had on mine. I had one of my skeptics jumps on there and goes, yeah, well, now that Trump's in, what's all your bullshit fuel economy going to do for you now when fuel prices drop? You know what?
Make you more money.
My iTorque
It-
truck is extremely high speed capable.
Yeah.
And if
Oh,
freight
yeah.
rates go to the moon and fuel drops, I can cruise at 85 mile an hour at around 1200 RPM. So
Hey.
if it comes to that and it makes sense to do that, and I'm in a state where we can run, I'll run. I've got absolutely no problem running 75 or 85 mile an hour if it's
Hey.
legal.
Yeah.
And the freight rates are right and the fuel prices is right. I got no problem at all with that, you know, and
Joel,
when people hear you talk about efficiency in the past, when you spec'd a very fuel efficient truck with direct drive, you were kind of stuck. You were at slower speeds.
Right.
You just were.
Right.
And I've done that for years with my D11 trucks. I spec'd them direct drive with a 250 rear axle ratio, 60 mile an hour. Once you got over that, it started to go downhill,
Yep.
but 60 and under,
Right.
9 mile a gallon truck without even trying. Today with iTorque, I don't care if I run 55 or 85. I'm going to kick ass. It just doesn't make any difference.
That's right. Yeah, you know, Joel, it's funny you say all that because the way my week worked out, the most I had on any day extra when I parked at whatever point I made was 5 minutes. And I went through that all week and I was headed home and I needed to get home to be able to get my 34 in to be able to leave to do my next week's run and get back before Thanksgiving, right? So there was other things. So I had to kick it in the butt last night, and I was over there on 130 where the speed limits are up there where you're talking about. And I reset the DAC while I was doing that on the leg, and I didn't have a heavy load on, so it was only like 18,000 pounds in the trailer. But I was surprised at how close I was to double digits.
Yes.
And
Well, let's also
head
talk
towards
about
85 mile an hour.
Let's also
when
talk
you're
about
that
this.
aerodynamic and you get that much weight moving at that speed, it starts to become your friend. You know, that once you get that rolling, it wants to stay rolling if you don't have a lot of drag out there. And obviously you've got a 6x2 and a very aerodynamic truck. So those kind of numbers are entirely possible. And I know it blows a lot of people's minds, especially the old school skeptics that are driving bricks around, you know, that are used to 4.5, 5.5 miles a gallon at 75 and 80 mile an hour.
Well, let's also talk
Right.
about this.
Yeah. So if fuel goes down, and
I know both of you
and
went through
if they
this as
increase
well.
the speed limit, we can make it on the other end.
All three of us go back to a time where we were working on fuel economy and fuel was less than a gallon. But for the most part, we've always reported in, like I would say, this modification is cost effective. Your break-even point is going to be somewhere between 6 and 9 months. And then after that, you're going to save this much. We did it based on the fuel price of that day. We were never just running around saying, well, we're going to spend $10,000 to get 0.3 more of a mile per gallon. We didn't do that.
So,
there were times where we did say, look, we proved that this works, but it's not cost effective. That number changes as fuel prices change. But to say, what are you going to do now that Trump's in? We were doing this when fuel was 80 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Well,
and what I was going to say on that, we're also the ones that when fuel shot up to 4, heading towards 5,
Right.
that we weren't crying.
Correct.
one of the best
Other,
examples
other,
of this.
other than the fact we knew it was bad for the overall economy going that high. But
one of the just the best real world examples of this, and I probably shouldn't giggle about this, but I just think it's kind of funny, Kevin. And I know you've seen this over on X. I had a skeptic over there, very old school guy. I'm not going to throw out any names, but he would literally call me every vulgar name and tie it to Volvo, and just went on and on and on, and just would not shut his mouth. Fine. I don't block people very often. Finally, I had to block this dude. I mean, it was just
sometimes you do.
ridiculous, the level of vulgarity. And very old school guy, bullshit, Volvo, Aero, my W9. And when freight rates were good and fuel was cheap, he was making money.
Sure.
He ain't in business no more.
That's exactly what happens.
I just kind of got a kick out of that. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
But
Can I tell you a little story about that?
Sure.
About
Sure.
aerodynamics? Well,
Mhm.
so when I first started, my first truck was a W900, and I didn't know a whole lot about trucking. I retired from the military and then got into trucking. And so I was like, oh, you got to get a hood truck. So I was like, all right, I went and got it. So I got a W900 with a 600 Cummins in it, 18 speed, 355 gears. I mean, it was a good truck, but the best
Mhm.
thing that would do would be 5.25 miles to the gallon. And
Sure.
anyways, then my second truck was a 379. I started growing my fleet, got a 379, and it was a 450 Cummins with a 13 speed.
Mhm.
But it was another hood truck, and but it would get like 5.75 miles to the gallon. It was just god awful. Well, then I
Mhm.
ended up buying a brand new 389 Peterbilt. It was 2020. Had a 565 Cummins, 18 speed, decked out, nice truck. And that best that would get, and I drive it the same way that I do right now with the Volvos. And it would get 5.83 miles to the gallon. And then when I bought a Volvo, it was a 2016 Volvo, and I paid 25 grand for it. Everybody was like, oh, "Who's going to drive that?" And I was like, "I am." And so then that's when I started seeing the change, and I was looking at, and that truck, I told Kevin about this. It had the wrong gears, and it was 325 gears in it, but I was
Mhm.
still in 400,000 miles that I ran that truck. My average was 6.8 miles to the gallon. Well,
Mhm.
then that's when I started doing my homework, and that's where I got this 264 truck, and I
Mhm.
got rid of that truck,
Mhm.
and now I'm sitting at 7.83 with this, running exactly the same way I ran all those other ones. I made
Mhm.
so much money off of the Volvos, and then everybody wants to talk to me because they see I have a nice pickup, I have a house, I got boats, I got a race car, and they're like, they want to know how I'm doing it, and then they're like, I want to get into trucking, and I'm like, I go, well, what kind? And the first question I ask is, what kind of truck do you want? Oh, it's got to be a Peterbilt 370. I was like, I have nothing to say to you then.
Yep.
I really don't. It's kind of like how Kevin is. You want to talk numbers, I'll talk numbers, but you don't. You want to drive. Why do you care what your work truck looks like? I give two
Well,
craps if this was a Yugo making me money. It's
you know,
like
here,
I really don't care.
here's
And
the other place I saw this where
I-
people who should have known better were fooled by the numbers. Over the years, I have watched many accountants who start doing tax returns for owner operators, and they look at the margin
Mhm.
and they think, oh, well, this is easy. Why don't I just buy 10 trucks? That they actually believe that when they're looking at an owner operator's margins, that they get excited.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
honestly,
Yep.
we could get owner operators down into the 40% operating ratio. That's unheard of in
Right.
business. Nobody gets there.
Yeah.
But what they don't
No.
understand is that takes a really dedicated driver who's also probably working on the truck sometimes. He's putting in 60 to 70 hours a week just driving, probably another 10 to 15 hours a week running the business. And that's the only way you're ever going to generate that kind of margin. The second truck won't come anywhere close to that number.
No, it doesn't. Like with my brother's fleet, we kind of fell into that trap. I mean, we knew better, but it was still, we were looking at it back when we had 1 or 2 trucks thinking, well, man, if we had 15 trucks doing this, we're going to be thinking, yeah, you get 15 trucks doing that, you do less than a quarter of that margin.
Well, that was the key there, Joe. If you could have 15 trucks running like that.
That's exactly right. In capital letters.
But you can't have 15 trucks running like that.
Nope. And that's what I struggle with today. My kids want to get into this, and I know if it's just me, I'm going to go out there and just kick ass between the truck and the consulting agency.
Yep.
I'm pretty much on easy street. But now
exactly.
I got 3 kids that want to be involved, and I've got Alec out there that wants to put. I'm like, oh Jesus, here we go. I didn't really want to do all this stuff, but I'm getting drug into. We'll make it with no doubt, but it's just not what I planned on. And I guess when you start a business, rarely does it end up exactly what you planned.
Exactly.
And it's kids, it's family. I'm happy to do it. It just wasn't really what I had in mind.
Yep. All right. Hey, Mike, anything else? Calls are starting to pile up on us.
Nope, that's it. You guys, you guys have a good day. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Good talking to you. Let's go to Alabama. Matt, welcome.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
What's on your mind
I got about
today?
10 subjects now.
Okay.
We'll try to go from the beginning. You were talking about different departments in the government.
Yeah.
And this isn't government, but it's, large corporations. Dale Howard, our friend, which I did talk to him, about saying coming on the air sometime.
Yeah.
He said he'd absolutely love to, but he's extremely busy. So trying to schedule it is the problem.
Got it. All right.
But yeah, he's definitely open someday. If you ever need anything, we'll make it happen.
Tell him one of the things we could do, since we could just catch up on a bunch of stuff, is we could just record it whenever.
Okay. Yep, I'll let him know.
Yeah, we wouldn't need callers. We could just kind of catch up on what he's been doing and that kind of stuff. We could just record it off the air.
The multinational corporation that he works for has an open position. And I don't know the exact title, but it's the Officer of Belonging.
Oh, please.
Oh.
Please. Is one of the requirements blue hair and a septum ring?
Well, Dale said he thought about taking the position because he'd be really good at walking around and telling the guy standing around, you belong back at your desk getting work done. You belong over here doing this.
Yeah.
You belong out looking for a new job.
You belong on the unemployment line, and I'm going to send you there. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Department of Belonging. Come on. Sheesh. Let's just cut to the chase on this. You have a job. You agreed to do the job. You agreed to get paid for it. Show up, do what you're supposed to do, get paid, and go home. This is really simple.
Yep.
This is just not nearly as complicated as we've made it.
Well, yeah, I feel the same way you do about all the appreciation week for all the different jobs. I've always felt the appreciation I see is the paycheck.
That's exactly right.
That's all I need.
And if you don't feel appreciated enough, maybe you're not producing enough.
Yep.
Could you imagine if you could take today's kind of liberal attitude or the way they think life should be lived and went back to maybe an old frontier town or even further back to a Viking village? Them people would just be dumbfounded. It would be like, what in the hell?
Well, depending on where you go back to, it might be, off with their head. I mean, they just wouldn't put up
Yeah.
with that at all.
Right. They wouldn't do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we have become so feminized. It's just
Well,
unbelievable.
and the reason
It isn't even that far.
right, you don't have to go that far back, but the reason we there was a time, and we move farther and farther away from this as humans, and we see the consequences of it. There was a time where it really was survival of the fittest, and not just fittest. You know, if you were dumb, you were probably going to die. Like the world was a
Yep.
dangerous place. You had to be physically
Yep.
tough, especially as men. We were the warriors, but women were pretty damn tough too. Life is way too easy now, and it's hard to say this without it kind of being offensive, but we keep everybody alive now. That's not the way biology worked. If you were that flawed for whatever reason, you were going to die, and
Right.
you weren't going to breed and spread the genes. That's not how things worked, but it does now. And we see that
Right.
there's a problem with that.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, the second subject was Henry's book, Henry Rickenbacker, and I think it was just last week a caller said it is available on audio, not the book Henry's talking about. There are Rickenbacker books,
right,
on Audible, but it's not the autobiography that Henry's talking about here.
Right. Yeah, it's only available in a used hardback, as far as I can tell.
Yep, that's all I ever found too, and I haven't ordered one yet, but I probably will.
Yeah, well, get on it so you can be part of that conversation.
Yep. The last subject I'll tackle here, but then I'll leave a teaser. Want to talk about on Monday? I'll call you, Kevin.
Okay.
The retirement changes coming up for 2025 with retirement accounts. Some just updated information with women.
Okay.
But this whole idea of fuel prices being cheap under Trump just shows how short-term memory people have. When they say that, they're only talking about 2020.
Exactly.
Which was, it got really cheap because of COVID. And then the short term, obviously, Biden's first year, they did a lot of things that skyrocketed the price of fuel.
Right.
In 2022. But the average price of oil under Trump's first 3 years was average. Wasn't high, wasn't low.
You know,
so actually, I have my numbers. I don't have the industry average, but I'll go all the way back 2015. My expense was 32 cents a mile on fuel. 2016 was the election year, not the year Trump was president.
Right.
27.
Wow.
Cents a mile.
That was low, no doubt.
So, yep. So Trump became president January of 17. 17 was 33 cents a mile.
Right.
18, 38 cents a mile. 19,
Matt,
41 cents a mile.
Yep.
Here's my thought on this. So your lowest that you saw was 27 cents. So I got my daughter going back and putting our discounted fuel price into fuel gauges to see where everything at. Today, for my 30, 60, and 90, I'm at 28 cents today.
Wow.
So I'm almost down where you were at. So we can control this without having to rely on the president. That I think is the point that a lot of people miss. We don't have to rely on somebody in Washington to control our fuel prices. You know what? If he goes and drills and it does happen to drop, wonderful. And the economy takes off and freight prices, skyrocket and fuel prices go down. All that would be wonderful. And if you got a truck that's adaptable and you can adapt to that situation, that's great. But we have the ability to control those prices ourselves.
Well, here's something else
I see so many guys running around at 50, 60, 70 cents a mile for fuel. And, you shake your head because it doesn't need to be there.
Here's something else they're missing.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I just opened up mine going for the last 90 days. That's where I'm at 27 cents, and that's my discounted price.
That's incredible. But let's think about something else that they tend to forget. The fuel surcharge is a big deal. bigger than what most people understand, because all you have to do is look at the one example. If you're getting exactly 6 miles to the gallon, fuel price to you is completely meaningless. It doesn't matter if it's $2 a
Yeah.
gallon or $10 a gallon. Your profit is going to be exactly the same. That's the point of a fuel surcharge. What they don't understand,
Especially if you're on contract rates,
yeah.
long distance, long,
Right. But what they don't understand is if you're only getting 5, you are screwed. Every time fuel prices go up, your profit goes down. But if you're just getting 7,
right.
every time fuel prices go up, your profit goes up. That's what they miss on all of this. Yeah, the price matters,
Well,
but it matters far more to you if you're getting under 6. To me, it's either I'm going to be profitable or I'm going to be really profitable.
well,
Sure.
well, yeah, and it's very easy to make more profit on. Or I shouldn't say that, but it's not your main profit center. But to be more profitable on fuel than some people actually are paid in a week for a full week's work.
Correct. Yeah. We've seen that happen many times when fuel gets high enough. You know, I think that there is, like almost everything else, there's a bell curve to the price of fuel. We do say, yes, we benefit, but it could crash the overall economy. I think there's a sweet spot in there. And I think we do best when fuel is somewhere between $3 and $4 a gallon.
Yeah. But the other thing I'd say, Kevin, and I don't really work the spot market, but if I do, and even when I was flatbed, I didn't care necessarily if there was a accessorial for parts. I didn't care. I didn't care if there was an accessorial for fuel surcharge, because even if there wasn't, I would look at the main rate and break that out on my own and say, yeah, that's worth it or it's not worth it.
Right. I just had to tell somebody this week online. They were going off about how there was no fuel surcharge on their load and the broker's ripping them off. And I had to try to explain to them there is no need for a fuel surcharge on the spot market. None. It doesn't.
Right.
It shouldn't exist. And they'll say, but on my other load, I saw that there was a fuel surcharge. It doesn't matter whether you think it's in there or
If
not.
it was there, it was there. If not,
right.
It all goes together or all comes apart.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
Meaningless spot market. Yep.
Some of those people, they'll turn down a $2 a mile load that has no fuel surcharge, but they'll take a load that pays $1.50 a mile and a 40-cent fuel surcharge.
I know. But guys,
because I am not hauling a load without it.
Hey guys, it is. It's almost Thanksgiving, so on that note, I want to say I'm grateful to those people because that's our competition.
Exactly.
Thank you for your
thing
ignorance.
Too about the price of oil and the government's relationship anyway, it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
I mean, Trump has made the statement, now this isn't oil, this is all energy. He thinks he can get the price in half by changing a bunch of regulations.
Yeah.
So if that truly happens, the price of oil drops, that more than likely the economy will expand, which will drive demand up, which will drive the price right back up. They go hand in hand.
It does.
If the price of oil gets too cheap, OPEC just cuts production to drive the price back up.
But the only problem with that always is if it gets real profitable, too many people jump in. And when there's too many people jump in, that usually drives it back down, and then we go through
Henry,
that.
Are you talking about a free market?
Yeah. Yeah. And which can lead to being able to buy a used truck really cheap at times.
Yeah.
You two need to go listen to yesterday's show with Kevin's interview and the lady he had on talking about the free market and government employees. It is her statement was just mind blowing.
Yeah, it was. And
about how the people inside of government don't even understand capitalism.
Yeah, so
I believe
imagine
that. Yeah.
imagine her background growing, and her father started the company, but she runs it now. A 35 truck fleet. Joe, you know all about that. That's a tough place to be.
Uh-huh.
Good place to be if you do it well. But you
Yeah.
could hear she is a staunch free market advocate. I mean, you could hear it in
Uh,
everything she said. And she
uh-huh.
works in the legislature in Oregon. Imagine how frustrating that must be.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
For sure. Well, at least she's had to make payroll in a down economy, and
absolutely.
how many people in government have had to make payroll in a down economy? I mean, that's you have to deal with that pressure for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you get a whole different perspective on
You know, and
free markets, and yeah.
I do think that what we're seeing at the federal level right now is really, really encouraging because we have a lot of business people making big decisions about the government right now, and that's pretty unusual.
Right.
Our country has been run by career politicians forever, and to see this, but it's the same thing here in Oregon. Here's the challenge. I tried this and I failed. And I think a lot of business people go through this. You want to give back, you want to
So
help,
yes.
but I can't do it. I tried, and my plan was start at the local level here, city council. If had that gone well, I probably would have ran for mayor. And then I may have thought about moving into the legislature here in Oregon. I thought maybe that's what I would
Mm-hmm.
do in retirement is stay in business, but also work in politics, except I can't. It was so
Yep.
frustrating and unhealthy for me to even think about doing that I got frustrated and I said, it's not for me. So when I see her do
Well,
this, I admire that. But I watched Bruce Williams go through this. Bruce Williams did the same thing.
uh,
He became the mayor of his town in New Jersey. I think he
mhm.
may have served 2 terms and then said, "You know what? I can't do this anymore." He had the same kind of
I will
frustration.
tell you how disconnected a lot of the people in the media and the government are from reality, and I'll be right up front. I'm not really a guy. I like some of his policies, but some of the things there's some things I don't like about him. I'll tell you the one thing that I love about the guy that the liberal media will hold up and say, "Oh, look, he's went bankrupt. He failed. Do you really want somebody that's failed running the
Yes.
country?" I absolutely do,
Yes, I
because
do.
he's been through the shit,
That's we
and that
yeah.
demands respect.
That
He has been through the bullshit, and that guy can go through shit like nobody else. I
uh,
mean, I don't necessarily. I don't
y
know him personally,
y
but there's some things when he gets his mouth running, I have a hard time with. But the dude can he
well, you
can
know what's
he can
happened?
navigate through some bullshit.
You know
that
what's
is
Knows
not
happened?
he
lazy.
knows
Eh
how to
eh
move.
the same thing
And
happened to
and
me because I said all those same things about him from the very beginning. I was not a big fan of a lot of things. What has happened is he has earned the respect of a lot of people who did not agree with him, but they look at him now and say, I might not agree with him, but I have to respect his work ethic. I have to respect, his tenacity, what he's gone through. And let's go back to the bankruptcies. Everybody that listens to this
Hmm.
show knows I have always said, always, over and over and over, I learn far more from my mistakes than I ever learned from my successes. And in business, there is
Hmm.
a philosophy of make as many mistakes as you can and make them as fast as you can because it's the best way to learn. Just get to the point where you don't make the big mistakes that take you out.
Right. If you haven't fallen on your face or failed at some point, you're not really battle tested, in
Not
my
even close.
opinion.
Yep, I
this
agree.
I've made so many mistakes coming up through, even as far back as when my dad was in the recycling business and stuff. We made multiple mistakes back then, and
Yeah,
just out of pure ignorance, we didn't know nothing. We,
right.
we weren't educated. We didn't know. And so you live and learn. So that's probably the one thing that I do like about
Yeah.
Trump, oddly enough, is the fact that he has failed, and he doesn't hide that fact. He's the dude's got some balls. There's no doubt about that.
That's for sure.
and the work ethic. I have never seen
Oh, yeah.
Especially from somebody that age. I mean, I'm like, how do you go like that?
Well, from what I understand,
I consider myself going pretty good, but
from what I understand, his secret is he doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep a whole lot. He has one big meal a day, and it's usually fast food. I don't know how he's still walking, although that he's done a lot of things right. Even though he doesn't eat a healthy diet, he eats in a healthier way than most Americans. He eats one big meal a day. That's a good way of eating, even if you're going to eat junk. That's better than eating junk 10 times a day, which is what the average American is doing between breakfast and snacks and hitting the drive-through all the time. And so I think that's part of his secret is he's able to eat like that and work like that on the standard American diet. Not sure how he does it, but that's part of why he's got that kind of stamina. Holy cow. I don't know if I could keep up with him.
Yeah,
and
no,
I've seen little
for sure.
the short clips, TikTok type things. What Saturday Night Live was doing during the election. It was, the the setup was the newscasters. Oh, let's go to wherever, and Kamala's on stage giving her 3-minute speech, and it's about how she was raised middle class, just her same line repeated. Okay, let's go to Trump, where he's been on stage for 3 hours now, and when he gets done here, he's going here for a 6-hour speech, and then he'll be here later today doing, it's Saturday Night Live's way of making fun of him, but they're speaking the truth, where he's just working nonstop.
So let's comment on this because it's in the news again. Did you guys see where we are on the broker transparency rule?
I seen there was some movement, but I didn't see what.
Yeah, so there's a comment period open again right now. Somebody posted there's 347 comments, and this is pretty current. That's just day one. There's 60 more days in the comment period. Basically, what they're trying to push through is not that you're going to be able to see the rate before the transaction, that you're going to be able to see the rate after the transaction, which is already in the books. It just doesn't get enforced. And brokers actually put waivers into their contract right now to waive that regulation. So a lot of times when you're signing that, you're signing away your right to see the transaction after the fact. They're going to try to eliminate that. And what they really want is automatic transmission of the data, so that within 40, the groups that want this are pushing for within 48 hours, every party in the transaction sees the data. I'm not really sure what that accomplishes. If anything, I'm afraid that rate transparency is a race to the bottom. If everybody knows the rate, it's easy to cut the rate just a little bit. That's what happens on bidding sites. That's why bidding sites are always a race to the bottom. I can cut you by 2 cents a mile because I know I can still make a profit there and I need this run. Then somebody else sees the rate and says, well, you know what? If I really have to, I could go 2 cents under that. That it's just a race to the bottom. If you don't know what somebody else had to bid to get that run, it's not easy to bid and get that run. But once you know it, then the only thing you're going to be able to do is cut the rate and make it lower.
The other happen is, people that they don't have their numbers to begin with. Now it kind of incentivizes them to rely on this rather than knowing their actual cost to operate. And you're right, that just implodes, and it's a race to the bottom, and it keeps people dumb.
Yeah, it really does.
It just does.
Yep. And here we are fighting for that again. Now, the good news is we're at least heading into an administration where I think a lot of these things maybe will just get ignored. The one I'm really hoping just kind of dies on the vine, and I think it will, is the PRO Act. The AB 5 type law for federal, that's just going to die. There's no way that's going to get any traction in this administration.
Right.
It may hold up what they're doing just in the state that's way out there by the ocean on your side of the country.
Yeah, yeah,
with what they're doing.
yeah, we'll see. But I'm not worried about it growing. And I had this election
No.
gone the other way, I would have been concerned about the product. Now, here's the good, I guess, good thing, and why I pay attention to this kind of stuff, why I talk about it all the time, as much as I'd rather not. I made the statement, Joel, on the panel when I was at NASTIC. They actually put me on the big panel of the week, the Saturday morning big finale panel,
All right.
except it was all about compliance. I looked at David and I
Ah.
said, David, what the hell are you thinking? I'm the guy that runs around saying compliance my ass. I don't care what the rules are. And he's like, yeah, but you have a good perspective on this. So my final statement on that was, I really hope we get to a government that's small enough that I can stop talking about it. That would be what I can't stop talking about it now. You can't. It has too much of an impact on our business. You have to plan
Right.
around these kind of things. So you have to see them coming. So we have to talk about it. I wish I didn't. I wish I could just talk about business and not have to think about what the government's doing. And I'm hoping with this administration that may start to occur, that we don't have to put so much focus on business. But in reality, had the PRO Act happened, I'm all set to make a ton of money off of that.
Right.
Because if it
Right.
happens, your solution is going to be you're going to have to go become a carrier if you want to stay in this business.
You capitalist dog, you.
I'm
So
sitting here.
you were going to try and make money off of somebody else's misfortune. I just
You are
can't
not
believe that.
kidding. I am. I am all prepared.
Oh man,
how
that's like
successful
when I get my ass
businesses
ripped
work.
for having a testing and consulting company. You get paid for doing that. Well, no
Yes,
shit.
that's exactly right.
What do you think about? They're doing it for free?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, Joel, it's funny when you say that. And my deal is a little bit different than yours, but and everybody thinks that everything's just all roses and everything, and they start wanting to do it, and then they start hearing what you actually got to do, and then they're like, "Well, I wouldn't do that." All right.
Hey, I invite anybody. Give Volvo or Freightliner or Peterbilt a shout and say, hey, I want to be a consultant. Set me up. I invite anybody and everybody. Come on down.
Oh,
Come
man.
on down. Yep.
Same with
If they
Henry and
only knew.
myself. We have direct shipper customers.
Right.
Everybody says that's what they want. Why aren't they out here doing it?
Right. Go get it. Go get it.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's
My
not. And
hardest
I'll tell you
rate
how
is my direct
how-
customer.
We're just lucky that it
I'll
all
tell
comes
you
our
how-
way. It just lands in our lap.
I'll tell you how not easy direct customers are. So my brother's got a bunch, and you guys have a bunch, and I know how much you guys have to work to do this. So I have a testing and consulting company that I want to focus on, and so I'm running some power only stuff because I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It would consume all of my time to go out and get direct customers, and then I wouldn't have any time to focus on what I want to do. And that's the balance that we were talking about. That's a pain in the ass. But you are correct. Everybody's like, oh, just go get direct customers.
Hey,
you
Joel,
just go get direct customers. See how that works.
Everybody on the call
do that.
Everybody on the call will appreciate this because I had to make that decision. So when I had 11 trucks and I realized I was going broke, I had to look at all the trucks and say, how am I going to fix this? And that's when I started accounting for each truck. And at the time, if I can even remember this correctly, I think Spartan was gone by then. I didn't have any trucks left at Spartan. I had 2 trucks at RPS, which became FedEx. I had 2 trucks with a local contract for one of the bottling companies, a Pepsi bottling plant. I did all their local stuff. That was under my own authority. I had trucks contracted to Aldi's. Aldi's had just moved into Ohio. This is back in the 80s.
Oh, my.
Yeah, Aldi's had just built a big distribution center just outside of Richfield, Ohio, where all my trucks were running.
Yep.
We went over and put
just down the road.
several trucks on with them. And then we had some trucks running under our own authority, just general freight over the road. And when I sat down and looked at where am I making money, where am I losing money, it was the trucks with their own authority and some direct customer freight running over the road that were doing the worst. And not only did I look at the revenue, I had to look at how much time I had to invest to generate that revenue. And with the direct customers and drivers and authority, it was a lot of time. And I looked at my two trucks at RPS and said, they're profitable, and I don't spend 10 minutes a week on those two trucks.
This is the same exact discussion that me and Alec are having right now. I'm like, Alec, look, this is what we got to be careful of. I don't want to get drugged down this hole. And you're talking about the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure.
I looked at it and said, wait a minute, if I wanted to own trucks to make money, my best path forward would be to work to get 20 to 25 trucks on at RPS.
Yeah, for sure.
And wasn't RPS back before that? Wasn't there a time where that was Robert?
No. So what you're confused about, Roadway, the big LTL carrier, started RPS from scratch. It was Roadway Package System. Roberts was a small expedited carrier. And Roadway bought them. Yeah, Roadway bought Roberts and brought them into the fold, but they were an expediter.
That's right. I knew there was something in there like that.
Yeah. And back then everything was centered right around Akron because that's where Roadway was headquartered.
And now Roadway and Yellow went together, and neither are. Isn't that something?
Yeah, well, they're all gone, which is pretty crazy. Spartan Express was another one. Spartan was a non-union LTL carrier out of South Carolina, and Roadway bought them and expanded them to get around the union. I mean, that's what all the big union carriers were doing back then.
Yeah, well, I still remember when CF went under.
Yeah,
they were really big up in Minneapolis. I knew a lot of people who worked for them, and I actually hauled the garbage out of their location, their terminal, their biggest one anyway.
I'm surprised how many CF trailers I see parked around yet. There's two right near me where I live here in Laredo.
Well, when I had
the trucks, somebody that's collecting old CF stuff, they're perfect.
When I had the trucks at Spartan, right across the street from us in Richfield was the big CF terminal.
Well, I lived right down the street from the big CF terminal in Charlotte, up there off Sunset Road. And the big thing I remember about it, because it was like the ultimate slap up against the union, they shut that down on the big union holiday of Labor Day, which also amazes me how many people take off for Labor Day that don't like unions.
Yeah, that's all right, though. All right, Matt, what else you got?
But yeah, I'll probably let you move along. But yeah, that old CF terminal on the north side of the cities is, I don't know when it was because I was just in there a month or so ago, drop off a pallet, and been completely redone, all new pavement, and it's Old Dominion now.
Yep. There you go.
I think they've grown.
All right. Hey, sorry, Matt. I cut you off mid-sentence. We're the calls are starting to pile up, and I have a webinar event I have to do at noon, so I got to watch my time today. Let's go to California. Darren, welcome.
Yes, hello, Kevin. Remember, I'm in the CMC and the coaching, and you suggested I come in and call and speak to Joel today about his brother's company and trucks for a first-time driver.
Hey, Joel, we're wondering what kind of deals your brother might have on a good startup truck.
I'll have to check to see what's coming. He's got a whole bunch of new ones coming in. I know he made a deal with Mac to take some of the Anthems out, and that is at the corporate level. I don't know where they're going. I can try and find out. Those are decently spec trucks. but as far as the used Volvos coming out, I'll have to check to see, because I know he just went through a batch of the VNMs with the 11-liter trucks, the ones that I really like.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they're all gone, but I will double check on that. He will have some VNLs coming. I don't think the I-Torque trucks are ready to go into the trade cycle, the early ones yet, and that's what you'd really ideally want to have. We probably have some XE 247 trucks that will definitely be hitting the marketplace here before too awful long. I'm just not sure when his new ones are due to arrive yet.
Is there a way we can connect him with you or him with somebody where he can just kind of work on this direct?
Sure, he can shoot me an email. It's Joel at Alpha Drivers with an S dash TC.com. And
Joel,
Joel at Alpha Drivers.
AlphaDriversPC.com.
Dash TC Tomcat. Yep.
Oh, TC. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And I imagine would be some of those trucks that would be non-smoker drivers available. Is that in the fleet?
Most likely. Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, because I'm a non-smoker. I'm definitely trying to find a truck that hasn't been smoked in.
Yep. So, no, I hear you.
Yeah. You're saying the I-Torques are the one I should really be waiting for?
Well, here, let me ask you, what are you going to do with it?
Over the road.
Basic van freight.
Yep, and are you a speed demon, or are you okay driving a little slower?
Well, as a company driver, I drive as fast as I can, but once I have my own, I'm going to do the smart things, drive as fast as necessary, but as slow as I can.
Sure. Oh, there you go.
So, if he has any of the 11-liter trucks left, they will have a much smaller price tag, and if you're willing to drive in that 60-mile-an-hour range, they are ass-kicking machines. And
Darren,
you will make a ton of money off them.
Darren, let me put in my opinion on this. I couldn't agree more that would be the ideal truck for you to start with. They're going to be so cheap that any fuel mileage we give up, maybe a little bit, we give up a little bit of performance. I actually like 11 liters. I think they can be really effective.
Sure.
But even if we were to say this isn't the most efficient truck, it wouldn't matter, because that lower cost is a much bigger deal in that first year than losing a couple tenths on our fuel economy. So I would say that if you could get one of these 11 liters, it would probably be the ideal truck for you to start with.
Well, I trust you. You're the knowledgeable person. You're the one I'm getting the help from in the CMC and the coaching. So I trust your opinion on that.
Yeah, here's how I would handle this. Well, I'd handle it a little different if I were driving it, but I would buy those. Joel, what are those, 400 or 500, maybe 600,000 miles, or are they even keeping them that long?
Well, he does have some that we kept out 7 years, so they're between 600,000 and 700,000 miles. But
I bet the price on
the
those
VNLs
coming,
really they'll be a little less.
I bet those
miles.
700,000 mile trucks will be priced really nice.
Yeah.
And let's think about that.
Sure.
We have an easy 4 years of efficient operation out of those trucks without a whole lot of expense. We could predict 4 years out of that truck without any big issues. That would be a very, very cost-effective truck for your first several years if you chose. But at the very least, let's get through that first year. Let's see how good you are at this, what we need to tweak. You may find, though, that you just end up keeping that truck because it's so damn efficient.
Yeah, I probably would want to keep it. My guess is anywhere from 3 to 5 years at least.
Yeah,
and
you'd
then
be able to
move up to another one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, and I'm just not tooting our own horn on this. If you're buying a used Volvo, there is probably no place in the country that's going to have done better maintenance and kept better records on it.
That's what I've been telling.
Well, that's what Kevin has been saying. Yeah. Because I just do not want to have any catastrophe or problem. I mean, I know it's no guarantee, but I can try and make the best decisions at the beginning as I can.
There are no guarantees, but we can do a lot of things that shift the odds in our favor, and this is one of them. You buy a truck that was spec'd properly by somebody who understands that platform, maintained better than anybody I've ever seen. All the records are there, and the prices are really attractive. This is hard to beat. I mean, really, if you can get one of these, it's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, that sounds real good. Okay. Oh, Joel, one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, but I was the one guy that you straightened out when I came on and said, you wouldn't want to purchase a Volvo because they're so expensive on repairs and all that. And you said that's a load of crap. I've done a 180 on that, and look, I'm after a Volvo now.
Yeah, there you go.
Good.
Yeah, I thought I'd just like to remind you that.
Yeah, shoot me an email, and I will. In fact, I'm after the show here. I'm heading over to my brother, so if you can shoot me something, if he's got something there, I'll take pictures and send it back. I just I don't know what's in the lot right at the moment.
Yeah, like I'm willing to purchase now, but I'm also willing to wait because I definitely do not want a truck that's smoky in it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But,
all right.
But I'm ready to buy right now, ready to check. Okay. Well, thanks so much, and I'll send you an email. And thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
All right. That Joel, one of the things I'm doing these days that I did not see how much I was going to enjoy this, but it now has become my favorite part of the week. It's the coaching program. Man, do I love doing that. It really, I'm to the point where I've got almost 40 years experience at this with trucks. Yeah, and I've learned a lot about trucks, about business, fuel mileage, maintenance, broker, all this stuff. And I get to use about 5% of it on this show. Because you know how the calls are. They're pretty repetitive. We're answering the same stuff over and over and over, which is fine. People need that. But when I work with the coaching program, I get to dive deep and use that experience. And I am, the call's supposed to be 2 hours, and I've gone 3 sometimes. And if there's still more questions or working on stuff, we just keep going. But I really enjoy that.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Whenever I can help somebody out, and I know I'm providing some value to them that's really going to help, especially guys just starting out like the caller. I mean, that's a big deal. By the way, just before I forget, I had a really nice meeting with Michelin, and I threw your name out there a couple times, so don't be surprised if they give you a shout.
Okay. Like I said, I loved working with Michelin when I did. It was just they turned over the entire marketing department all at the same time. And it was a bad time for me. I was traveling a lot. We were working a lot, and I didn't have time to go back and build those relationships again. And the new people came in and said, what the hell is this program, and why are we doing it? And they wanted me to resell it all again. And I'm like, look, I just don't have time,
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, I appreciate that because they were a great partner.
Right. Yeah, I got to meet all their marketing people and one of their outside firms and stuff. And they have an engineer that turned product marketing manager, which is the best kind of product marketing manager. And I guess he would be willing to maybe come on Friday shows. So we're
awesome.
trying to work that out.
That'd be awesome. You know what else I loved about him?
Yep.
The fact that, we sometimes complain when you have to work with big companies. There are big companies that pay every 90 days. I've even heard 120 days. So sometimes you have to wait a long time for your money. We worked out a hell of a deal with Michelin. They just said, hey, look, we gave them a price per year, but then we would normally just invoice them every month. Yeah, and when we gave them the price per year, they said, if you don't mind, we'd just like to pay this all up front.
We want to cut you a check. Yeah, some of the bigger, like BASF, they were the same way with me doing stuff. They said, you know what, let's just make this easy. Boom. And you're like, greatest customer ever.
Absolutely.
No, great people that way. Yeah, when they can do things like that, that makes life so much easier.
Boy, it sure does. All right, let's go to Indiana. John, welcome.
Morning. I got a question for Joel. about a Mac I finally found.
Okay.
It's the problem is it's Pinnacle, but it does have a TC engine. It's 445 1850. It's the MP8 HE.
Yep.
But the lowest gears I've been able to find is 247s. And it's got the 12 speed instead of the 13 or 14.
Sure. So 247 12 speed is okay. It's kind of like the caller that had the 264 gears. It's going to do okay. You're not going to set world records with it. It will be respectable though. The thing that you get into with the 12 speed and the 247 gears, after you make the downshift, direct drive 247 really isn't optimal to be running at 65 mile an hour. You're kind of off the torque curve, and so then they like to go in and set the parameters, the gear down protection, and a lot of things to keep the truck in top gear longer. And then it starts to feel sluggish because it's in top gear longer because we don't have the right gears for the speeds most people want to run. And then you just kind of get into that trap that, the truck doesn't really pull that well. The fuel mileage is okay, but it's not super. It's going to do respectable. If you're not a speed demon and you don't care how fast you're going, you can kick ass with that truck. If you are worried about performance, how it climbs hills and you still want to get good fuel efficiency, it will struggle a little bit. This is kind of where Henry and the Detroit have a little bit of an advantage over Volvo when we're in that range. That DD15, it's a little more comfortable at higher RPMs than the Volvo, and it's gonna perform a little bit better. But that being said, it will still do a respectable job.
Now we're in the bulk industry, so we do get off road. That thing gonna be startability all right for that 12 speed?
I wouldn't be thrilled with it. Yeah. See, this
I don't
is
mean
where
like real off road, just like gravel pit once in a while.
Yeah,
but
gravel.
We do deadhead a lot. I'm on a 1,000-mile deadhead right now to Manitoba.
Sure. No, it'll do all right if it's just occasion and you're not in any deep sand, loose sand, or into mud or anything like that. You should be okay. Just make sure that the default is either set for first gear to start, or that you have the ability with the premium shifter to put it in first gear when you want to.
It does have the premium shifter.
Okay, all right. Just make sure that it's all opened up and everything is functional, and you should be okay. It's not ideal, but you should be okay.
What realistic number fuel mileage do you think compared to this glider? I've talked to you before. I got a Fitzgerald glider, 389.
Every person that I have helped do this that came out of gliders and went into an iTorque truck has improved significantly. Most of them in the 2.5 to 3 mile a gallon range. Now you don't have iTorque, so I conservatively I would say you're probably going to see a mile to a mile and a half improvement over what you're doing now if you operate exactly the same. Would be
now, I thought the HE was
conservative
the
guess. The what was the iTorque?
I thought the HE was the iTorque.
No. HE's turbo compound, and turbo compound can be had as XE or iTorque. What makes iTorque is the 13 or the 14 speed with a 2.16 rear axle ratio. It's the shift logic that makes it iTorque. The turbo compound engine was designed specifically to run at very low RPM, and the 247 does that to some degree if you keep it in overdrive. It's just your performance may be a little sluggish at times because it's going to try and hold it in top gear as long as possible to get the fuel economy benefit out of the truck. And if you know that going in and it doesn't bother you, you can do quite well with that truck. But you know, a lot of guys will say, oh, it just dropped down too far on the hill and it was all the way down to 900 and it wouldn't downshift. Well, it's not supposed to in that XE setup.
Right.
Right. Now with iTorque, it's a completely different story. iTorque, it sees the hill up front with IC and it says, nope, I'm downshifting before I'm on grade. And it does a whole lot of things different than what XE does. But XE is, it's respectable.
It's HE.
Yep. Well, right. But on the Volvo side, it's
same thing.
The package is called XE. That HE on the Mac side is, it's for their TC version of they call it HE.
Yeah, because I'm at 6.46 on fuel gauges right now.
Yeah,
I almost got to 7 in the heat of the summer, but it's winter now, so.
Yeah, I would suspect that you will do a mile a gallon, maybe a mile and a half better. If you have a lot of empty miles in overdrive like you're talking about, it may be significantly better. Because 1,000 mile trip with T down around, it will just roll up fuel efficiency.
Yeah, because I looked at last year, I was about a third empty for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can start empty and loaded miles.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha.
All right, I appreciate it.
Right,
I mean, they're getting pretty aggressive on selling them. They just called me, dropped the price another 12,000. So.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
Price on it. It's high torque numbers, but it will be very respectable.
Speaking of prices dropping, I had a note about this. I'm going to throw it in. I got to go do some research. Something really strange just occurred. So I talk about the real estate market all the time, and I was buying properties right when we were at the top, and I knew we were at the top. And I explained why I bought them. They were just really, really unique properties. If I don't get them now, I'm not going to get them. And the properties that I bought, I'm not going to lose anything on. The one I never, ever plan on selling. I hope it's in my family 4 generations from now, so I don't really care what I paid for it. But I monitor prices so I know what's going on in that market. Yeah, and I've been expecting a real estate crash for several years now, and it just doesn't happen.
Doesn't come. Yep.
I thought I bought at the top when I bought a small lot here a couple years ago, and it's almost doubled in price on me. And then I thought we were right at the top when I bought the homestead, except it went up on price right after I bought it and kept going up. Yesterday, and I got this part of the deal when I bought this, our buyer's agent signed me up for this AI service on real estate and gave me like a year where I didn't have to pay for it. And this website used AI and monitored the property for the value, for if you had your mortgage in there, it would tell you how much equity you had and what you could do with the equity. If you invested it here, you would be able to generate this much. And then it even analyzed it for like an Airbnb and would say, if you had this and this, you could generate this much profit. And so I've been watching this for a year and it's interesting. And I just opened up yesterday's report. I lost almost $300,000 worth of value in a month.
Holy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like out of nowhere. The price pulled back a couple times last year, a little bit, then went back up again and kept going up. And I'm like, I keep expecting stuff's not moving. It's not selling. Why aren't these prices coming down? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I lost almost $300,000 in value. So I got to go figure out why.
Wow,
that's just odd.
Huh? Maybe they're worried. Maybe they're worried the North Koreans are going to nuke the West Coast or something.
I don't know. That's pretty crazy. Like I said, I don't care. I'm not selling it, so it doesn't matter to me. I'm happy with the price I paid for it, but I'm just looking at this thing. Is this some weird anomaly, or is this what we're about to see in real estate prices? Because if it is, I need to get prepared to buy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go to Texas.
What time did you say your deal was, Kevin, that you had to do?
Noon my time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I still have 2 hours, but I got to get ready for it. So I just got to keep an eye on the clock here. Mark, what's on your mind?
When you let me go yesterday, I got back on and I heard Mike Beckett say that, you know, Mark needs to buy some tires. So coincidentally, last Saturday I lost a tire and I had to buy 2 new tires, and then I picked up a bolt on Monday, and so I had to buy 2 new tires. So I've gotten 4 tires in the past since Saturday. And what I'm called to talk about is I've got 2 discount tire programs. One is called Truckers B2B, which is owned by WEX, and the other, I joined a car hauling association, and it's no longer active because the guy who created it died. It's called Independent Auto Transport Association. Well, in there, what came about in there is I ended up with a membership to Corecentric, which I understand is sometimes difficult to get. Well, with the Corecentric membership, I get a number, an account number, and I get their pricing on Continental tires, which is very significant. It's almost 50% off what they list for. And some are more, some are less. And you just walk into a Love's or a Southern Tire Mart, you give them this number, and they look you up. You're in the system. And you sign this piece of paper, you get your tires, and you get this morning from the tires I picked up Monday, I got a bill, an email that we'll send a check to and pay for the tires. Now, yesterday, I have this friend who hauls cars, and he sent me a picture. I'm getting 2 new tires, and then I finally talked to him. I said, well, what did you get? He's the one at the Southern Tire Mart and down in Hope Hull, which is by Montgomery, and I got these Bridgestones, and it cost me $1,900 and blah, blah, blah dollars. And I'm like, do you have a tire program? I just recently sent him the pricing list that I get so he could compare in my contact with Corecentric, but he didn't look into that. So I've got 4 new tires, 2 Yokohamas, 2 Continentals, because I'm going to Continentals on the drive tires with the Continental HDR. The HDRs cost me $420 a tire. The 2 Yokohamas I got, they were like $330 a tire, something like that, plus FET and tax or whatever. And this guy goes and gets 2 tires. I got 4 for way less than what he got. I don't know how many people run a tire program, but there's so much money to be saved out there by running a tire program or having a national account than walking in to Southern Tire Mart or to a truck stop and paying full price.
Mark, let me give you the other side of this story sometimes. So don't just assume if you have access to a national pricing tire program that it's better, because it's not always. And a great example, FedEx. FedEx is a big account. They own a lot of trailers, so they buy a lot of tires themselves. And they had several national accounts, and they made it available to their contractors. Many, many times I could beat their price. When I went directly to a tire shop that I had a relationship with and negotiated a price, many times I could beat their national price.
Well, and I get that because tire pricing is so subjective.
It's crazy.
But when you're on the road and something happens out here, like one of the things I look for is availability. How available is this tire? Who has it? When can I get it? If I pick up a nail on the side of the road and I have to replace them, can I walk into this tire store, this place, and will they have the ones I run? Because in car hauling, it's not exactly one size fits all. So you kind of look for the tire size that you have.
Here's how I used the program. When I planned and bought tires, I would just do the work and negotiate the best local deal I could find, and it was usually better than the national price. When I needed a tire on the road, I always used the national program. That's when, and that's why big companies don't get the absolute cheapest price, because markets are different all over the country. What they get is a guaranteed price that overall works really well for them. Well, if you understand the game, you can take advantage of that by buying your own tires as cheap as you can get them when you can control it, and using their national program when you can't.
Well, I agreed, and I've done that before. Southern Tire in there and needed a tire, calling the program that I had for Yokohama. I asked them, I say, hey, what does this go for? It was $50 cheaper because they buy so much in bulk at Southern Tire Mart of Yokohama. I just called and said, cancel that. I'll save $50 by buying it right here. So I have done that. But it's like, but to walk in and just pay absolutely the full price for a tire, unless you're in a place where you can't get and you end up with a Vietnamese tire for $300.
Mark, how many owner operators do this with fuel every day? They don't try to fuel optimize. They don't have a fuel buying program, and that's something they're buying 2 and 3 times a week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I see people go in and buy fuel with a debit card, and it's like you look at them, you're like, you're wondering what's going on inside their head, because it's like, you know, and you know, you tell somebody, you know, like, this is what I do, and it works, and to them just like either don't believe. Same guy, I've got to go to Redneck on Monday and have my injectors and something else checked out. And I was telling him about it. He goes, so are you going to get an engine rebuild? I said, why would I want an engine rebuild at 830,000 miles when the last oil change, I didn't use any oil in 47,000 miles? I'm like, I said the oil sample would tell me when to change the engine, you know, to do an engine change or a rebuild or whatever. But it's like this dogmatic mentality in this industry of people who have been told things, and they don't want to change, and they can't look at everything with an open mind and try to figure out, how can I make more money at this with what little I have? But people just, you know, they go back to Mac's deal where they're on Twitter where he told you, you know, oh, that efficiency shit. What, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like everybody's got this defeatist attitude.
Hey, Joel, did you hear that line?
Well, I've heard bits and pieces of it.
So basically, when this whole idea was floating around that Craig Fuller should be the Secretary of Transportation and I would be advising kind of thing, Mac went in there and said, oh, hell no, we don't want any of that run for less bullshit that he spreads. Yeah, no efficiency in this industry. Don't even think like that.
Right. Yeah. Don't run your business, you know.
In their mind, all they can correlate that with is, I want to cut costs so I can run for less, which is exactly correct. But it doesn't mean I'm going to run for less. I'm going to run for less expenses, which has nothing whatsoever to do with my revenue.
You want to run for less expense and more profit.
Yeah. That has no impact on my revenue.
They confuse, you know, gross and net, right?
Yeah.
That's what the problem is here. Just clueless.
Here's the advantage that they really don't understand and why they get so frustrated. If I get my cost as low as possible and the market and the rates tank like they have, and there's nothing you can do about that. The $4 a mile freight, for the most part, is all gone. We're at $2 a mile these days. You can't change that. But because if you work really hard to get your operating costs low, you can still make a profit at these rates. The minute rates go up, I'm charging the higher rate too. Now I make even more profit. But it keeps you in business no matter how bad things get.
Well, the one, when you were talking about the line there on the fuel discount card and all that, you know, this industry doesn't move that quickly, you know, which still amazes me that, to me, 6x2 liftable pusher on line haul should be the norm, not the oddity. 6x4 should be the oddball that nobody wants, but that's not the way it is. But on the fuel discount card, this one you don't hear so much that I heard for a long time. When you said about the debit card, it reminded me that the ones that I paying at, that used to be the big deal. I go in and I pay cash.
Oh yeah,
the mom and pop.
Yeah, right. Well, when you say things we don't move fast in this industry, here's a great example. I still occasionally run across somebody who believes you should be buying enough fuel in each state to cover your miles. That is what, like 35 years old now? How long how long has it been since we had a bingo card?
Been around?
Yeah. How long has IFTA been around? It's been a little while.
Just a shade.
Sheesh. All right, Mark, what else you got?
Well, I was going to add to that. You were talking about fuel surcharge. All my main two customers, one has it built into the rate, and one you see it when on your settlement. They pass along the fuel surcharge they get from the manufacturer, the auto manufacturers to haul the freight. They pass it along to us when they're sub haulers. So I get fuel surcharge. I kind of take it for granted, and I forgot about it. I got it until it got mentioned earlier. So it's like, so again, it goes back to building a relationship with your customers and your suppliers and the people you do business with. And, everybody and people do business with people they like. And so, just try to be a likable person and some people are really passive aggressive when they go out, and I don't know why they have feelings about talking to customers. They want to email them or text them or whatever. And I'm like, you need to talk to these people. You need to develop relationships. And I don't think some people understand even how to do that. I mean,
take them to lunch.
There's no blueprint.
Take them to dinner.
Well, that's my customers took me to dinner a couple of weeks ago. They called me and they said, "Hey, we want to go have a dinner with you." And so we go to a sports bar and then we all ate steaks and we sat there and talked about other things like car hauling and all that. But that's my main customer, and they wanted to hang out with me or wanted me to come hang out with them. Yeah. And when you get to that position like that and people do that, it's like it's a great place to be.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Hey, Mark, we're going to move along. I do have to watch the clock. I got to get through these final calls here. Let's go to Washington. Damon, welcome.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. So I got two questions. I run regional Pacific Northwest constantly in the mountain passes, and I'm thinking about changing trucks. I'm trying to set a fuel economy goal, and in this kind of situation, I don't know what's reasonable. I mean, we've got 10 mountain passes around us that I run regularly,
are you hauling,
and I struggle to stay over 8 miles.
Are you hauling more than 80,000?
No, 80. Okay. Hauling groceries, so it's half deadhead.
Got it.
Going out loaded, coming back empty.
Got it. So give
that's
us
question one.
So you are spending the majority of your time in the mountains?
Yes, we're based out of central eastern Washington at an elevation of like 500 feet, and I'm surrounded by 3,500, 4,500 feet that I've got to cross to get to all my destinations.
Yeah, I was going to say in every direction. Yeah.
So half of it's down.
Go ahead. Half of it is.
Actually, less than half of it, because a good bit of it in between the ups and the downs is flat usually.
So give me a typical route for you, city to city. I'm going to put this on my my elevation thing here.
Oh, there we go. We're going to get technical.
I would go like typically from Grandview, Washington, which is right around 500 feet, to either Seattle Market or Portland Market. If I go to Seattle, I'm crossing a lot of hills to go to Seattle. Seattle's rough. Portland less so. Status Pass is, it's pretty gentle on the slope. But going to Seattle, you got, all the hills between, on Highway 82, there's 3 big hills you cross, and then Snoqualmie Pass. It's just lots of elevation changes constantly up and down.
Oh, we'll put that as a start. And then you said Portland and Seattle is essentially where you're running to?
Most of the time, but it's always originating from Grandview. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a feel for it. I'm going to put you on my elevation thing here and just get an idea of what's happening. So, because this takes into account the up and down. I can see the total elevation rise. Okay, so I see the one big hill you're running. So let's do this. Let's go into charts. Let's go to elevation. Where is the info? I don't want 3D map. Where did it go? Why am I not
Sounds like
seeing
a
this?
program.
Okay, so here it's your average is 670 feet, maximum is 2,999, minimum is 10 feet. So you ascend, you go up 5,863 feet, running from Grandview to Portland, and you go down 6,184. So you're actually going down more than you're going up, running from Grandview to
Yeah,
Portland.
because you're starting on 500 feet, you're ending around sea level.
Yep.
Portland's
And you're
very
going
low.
over a 3,000 foot pass. It looks like essentially at some point.
Yeah,
It's probably higher than that, but yeah. Yep. But you're relatively flat till you get to that pass. I mean, it's not horrific. And it's a pretty good grade. What are you getting now for fuel economy?
So my truck is a T680. I'm getting, it's an MX-13 12-speed auto. During the winter time, I'm getting like 7.6. During this time, I can get 8.2, 8.3, but that's about the best I've been able to squeeze out of it.
12-speed auto. What's rear axle ratio?
279.
279. And you said it's an MX?
Yep.
Gotcha. What horsepower?
455, 1750.
Okay. And you're running a dry van?
That actually might be 1650 torque. Dry van and reefer.
Okay,
Primarily
so
reefer.
here's what's important on this, and this is, and I don't understand why PACCAR does this. I don't get it. So you will see a lot of these PACCARs with that 455 1650, and that means that engine is not making any horsepower till it's wound up pretty good, because it's relatively low torque versus the amount of horsepower you're putting out. So it's making horsepower high in the torque range. My understanding is that they have a 455 1850 version of that, and just putting that in your current truck with the gear ratio that you have, you're probably going to bump your fuel efficiency significantly, because you're going to hold on to gears. You're going to hold the gears longer. Say again?
Or is that something that has to be ordered that way? Like if I go to the dealer and say I want
I don't know with PACCAR. With a Volvo, I can flash any horsepower and torque combination that's available, and it's a flash. In the ECM, we don't have to change anything. I don't know with a PACCAR. I couldn't tell you if there's hardware changes or if it's a flash.
Right?
Well, and that's the other thing. See, they may be doing this to keep the price of the truck down, so they only make it 1650 torque so they can put a little drive shaft in it and not have to spend the money and try to keep the weight down on the truck. So your initial purchase price is cheaper. That may be going on too. So there's a possibility it could be flashed, but they'll say, well, we're not going to do it because the drive line won't handle the torque. That's a possibility, but
very likely.
It could very well be what's going on.
I know you can't program it third party. PACCAR is super tight on their software. This is a 22, and I think you can only program up to like 2016 right now. The rest of it's still locked down.
Yeah, I would find out from the dealer if it can be bumped to a higher torque rating without any issues, and what it would cost if they can just flash it, if that's possible. If not, you want to buy something different. Is that what you're thinking about to improve the fuel efficiency? And your fuel efficiency for what you're doing is not that bad. It's not horrific or anything like that. I mean, what's your expectation?
Well, that's the deal. I don't really know what to have for an expectation because of, this market it's just a little rough. We start out in the hole and I have to go uphill loaded in any direction that I go. So, I think 10 miles a gallon for me is probably not going to happen, but what could I achieve? And I'm looking at this because I'm looking at changing trucks. I'm looking at kind of shifting my focus to going farther north I want to start running across the Yukon. So I want a more reliable truck than this truck. And this thing hasn't given me any issues, but pack cars are hard to get worked on. And when you start crossing the Yukon, your ability to get surface, I mean, you can go 500 miles in between stops and there's nobody with wrenches.
So that's probably going to override, if that's what you're going to do, you want to get up into that type of work, that's probably going to become your primary consideration. I mean, fuel efficiency will still be up there, but when you're going into duty cycles like that, there are other considerations that are going to be a priority. So I'm assuming you're going to probably want to buy a Cummins, right? Or if you buy or a Detroit, one of the two, because you're looking at service availability, correct?
I would think Cummins would be the easier to get worked on. They're simpler to work on.
I don't know about simpler to work on. That's I don't know. That's a story that's been sold. Regardless, though, I mean, when you're up in the Yukon, that's probably going to be the engine of choice up there, because there's going to be some support for it where there's going to be little to no support for everybody else. That would be my expectation.
My train of thought is going to something that is as simple as possible to give me the least likelihood for a breakdown, because I'm not sure if you've ever been towed from an area like that, but five-figure tow bills happen.
I completely get it. Yep, I completely get it.
Especially when they know you're from the state, it does not go well for us.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how remote and how heavy duty you're getting into, but it almost sounds to me like you're going to be thinking about, you're probably going to do something with a Cummins and probably a manual transmission, I would suspect.
My thought process so far, it's that kind of, to hear you go down the same road without me suggesting it kind of confirms what I've been thinking. But yeah,
because I mean, when you're out literally hundreds of miles from anything, you're not wrong at what you're thinking, and that is a duty cycle that beats the hell out of trucks. The roads aren't exactly smooth, and electronics, they can be subject to damage from vibration, and you're going to be beating the hell out of that truck. So your problem is that your duty cycle right now says, hell no, don't ever buy a truck like that, but you're wanting to move into a duty cycle that requires it. Do you want to take it on the chin and buy something now that is completely wrong for what you're doing in hopes that you're going to move into that? Or do you want to just continue to run what you have, maybe tweak it a little bit, and then when you actually do get into running up there, buy something that's more appropriate for the duty cycle?
Well, I'm looking at the next year or two, and I definitely, if I do make that change, I want it to be before the next emissions change, because I don't want to adopt all of the learning curve of the 48-volt emission heaters and all the other crap they're going to put on, that the first couple of years may not be as reliable as the trucks we have now.
I would almost take the exact opposite view with this. One of the great things about the super truck projects that we have, and we're not under such demanding timetable. The newer emissions, I have more faith in them than like when we had our first rollout and everything sucked. I don't know that we're going to get into that many problems, but that's a comfort level that you have to decide that you have. If you want to, continue to run what we have and you're going to go Cummins, I think of all the manufacturers, the next generation Cummins is probably going to be exceptionally good. So you really have to think about that. They're doing a lot of things right on the new X15 versus the current or the legacy X15s. So you've got a lot of thinking to do here for sure. But I'm with you. If you get out into the wilderness area, I'd be thinking manual transmission and a Cummins most likely.
In that situation, you can't ignore fuel economy, because you're looking at, you can be up into $7 a gallon for diesel far north.
Oh, it's a very difficult, challenging duty cycle. if you're going to be making the same run all the time up through there, if it's like a dedicated thing, and you know that there's a Volvo or a Freightliner dealer that's on the way, and you know it's something that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, I'd definitely be looking at either one of those, and I may not be so afraid of the automated manual at that point. But if you're going up there and it's irregular and you don't know where you're going from day to day, that's a very, very demanding duty cycle, and you have to be careful what you do, for sure.
Well, it's going to be a little of both. You can get a run up there pretty easy, but getting a run back is near impossible. So you take a run up and then you run local in the state for a while trying to find a backhaul, and you either find one or you don't.
Just out of curiosity, why do you want to do this? Sounds like a pain in the ass. Oh, okay. There you go. You're going to move up there?
Apparently pain in the ass is my thing, because I want to live there.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I just wondered,
that's a good reason.
It presents a hell of a bunch of challenges, and it's going to be difficult to get this right. You know, I don't have a whole lot of experience running up in that area, and I'm sure there's some people up there, you know, if you found the right person, they could say, oh, you need to do this, this, and this, because we got dealers here, here, and here. And that's going to be your overriding consideration, where you're going to be able to get that truck worked on.
You know, Joel,
I don't give a damn about brand loyalty. It's going to be where you can get that truck worked on.
Well, you know, this is the same thing that, you know, when we talk about when you post something or Henry posts something or I post something, there's always that one person that says, well, that doesn't work for me because I do this. We know, we get that.
Yep.
This is one of those situations. The stuff we talk about is not going to work, but that doesn't mean you just stop thinking. We look at this situation and we start using our experience, say, okay, if I had to do this, what would I do? It's going to be different. And do I really want to do this? But so, yeah. We're going to grab one more call. Oh, go ahead, Henry.
Was arguing with me, telling me how bad my truck was and it wouldn't hold up a day hauling in and out of the quarry. And I'm like, but I didn't build it to haul out of quarry.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's go to California. Luca, welcome.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
Good. What can we help you with today?
So first and foremost, I want to just thank you for taking time out of your day to take this call and doing what you do.
You're welcome.
So to give you some background, I'm a new driver. We're an open owner-operator team. And, you know, I've been listening to your podcast because as a new driver, a new authority, I want to make sure I could absorb as much information into this industry as possible.
Good.
To make sure I'm successful. So one of the things that I've come to understand in this game is the only thing you can really control is your expenses and specifically your fuel mileage. So what I want to ask you is I would like some tips based on like our truck and what we're driving, as well as like where I can access resources to get a better understanding of fuel mileage and how to maximize it.
Got it. All right.
So
Boy,
we're running a
just so you know,
Freightliner Cascadia.
Let me clarify something. You can probably ask this question and set up the scenario in 5 minutes or less. If the three of us try to answer everything we could about what you just asked, it'll take us about 5 years. Just so you know. But your congratulations, because you're doing exactly what you should be doing. You're jumping in and you are focusing on it. Now, it's a big learning curve, but there's a lot we could help you with. So go ahead and outline what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm obviously taking the obvious approach of driving slower, because that's like one of the first things that you can actually do. So I've been very conscientious of that. So second, we're running a Freightliner Cascadia 2021. It's a DB13 DP12.
Okay.
And we're hitting right about, it's reading 8.1 in our total trip and 8.3 on this leg. But I don't know how accurate that is, because I don't know if we have like the tire size calibrated and whatnot. and I did run like a conservative estimate myself, but it was based on very limited data, and I got about maybe 7.5 miles per gallon. So I want to ask, is that like a good range that this truck should be running in, or could we do better?
Well, give us a little idea of the operation. Is this van?
What was that?
Is this are you pulling a van?
No, we're pulling a trailer.
Yeah,
53-foot trailer.
A van trailer, not a flatbed or anything, not a tanker.
No, it's a sleeper.
Okay.
A sleeper Freightliner Cascade.
Got it. The trailer itself, where we put the freight, it's a box, right? A traditional trailer where we can run pallets in and out of it.
Yes, correct.
Okay, got it.
More specifically, we're doing Amazon loads.
Got it. Okay. And what part of the country are you spending most of your time?
As of now, we're going from California to Nevada, Arizona, and like sometimes we might dabble into like Colorado, Washington, Utah.
Okay. So I'll give you the average fuel economy across the country, big fleets included, everybody included. The average fuel economy is 6.6 now, I think. You're at 7 something on a van, which is one of the areas where we can get better fuel economy. And now I'll give you the potential, because both of these guys on the call with me do this, and you guys give them your numbers. Here's the potential for what you could possibly do in an operation like that. Go ahead, guys.
Henry, you want to roll first? Hello.
You know what? Henry's just gone. I just looked up. His call isn't even on the board anymore. I don't know what happened there.
All right. Well, here,
so 1 second. Sorry, excuse me. This is assuming that we optimize everything.
Correct? Yeah. What I gave you is the average, and it is almost meaningless in my book. You're already beating the average. We can ignore it. Now, what I'd like to look at, what is the absolute best potential I think I could squeeze out of this? And Joel's probably the best example of. And Joel, your operation isn't all that different.
No, right. And we're very, very similar. Amazon freight tends to be light. You tend to have some empty miles involved there. So we have a very similar operation. I've got both my kids running team in my truck right now. We're doing some stuff for Schneider. So I track my 30, 60, 90 and lifetime averages. My 30-day average is 11. My 60-day is 10.90. My 90-day is at 11. And the lifetime on the truck for 241,000 miles is 10.61. Doing almost exactly the same work that you're doing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big. But that is maximizing everything.
Truck?
Say it again.
Is it the same truck?
Is it the same truck? This is in a Volvo iTorque 6x2 configured truck. It's a 2023.
Now, what would be closer? Henry does run a Freightliner with the DD15. You have the ability. I'll say this: your setup and your operation, you have the ability of breaking 10. I don't know we're going to get you to 11. 11 plus is really a challenge. You've got to do a lot.
I was aiming even towards 9. That would be
right.
Right.
9 will be fairly easy with that truck.
Yep.
So what I want to find out is where I can access resources to learn about this stuff, so I can really get it down. Because we're looking to obviously grow and expand our fleet. And I feel like it's something that's going to be crucial in our success in the future.
So I'll give you
the
resources.
Tips you can maybe give me for my configuration, if any.
I'll give you the resources that I provide. So one of your best resources, certainly for the price because it's free, is just listen to this show and call. And we'll have discussions like this. We'll talk about specifics. We'll I'll spend as much time as I can here. If you need more than that, I have a coaching program where I'll spend as much time as I need. That's $75 a month, and you can start and stop anytime. It's a 1 month at a time. You're never locked into anything. And I do a coaching call every Thursday. They're usually several hours long, and I'll spend as much time as I need with you. We'll go through all the details. I have a CMC program that's a year-long training program, not just on fuel mileage, but everything there is to know about running a profitable operation, everything. And then I actually, this afternoon, I have a program. The CMC that's a paid program. It's $1,000 a year. I have a program we're kicking off this afternoon that Truck Stop is picking up the bill. So for you, it would be free. Now, it's not as in-depth. We're not going to do a ton of stuff on fuel mileage in this program. This is a year-long program where I do a webinar every other month. So you're going to get 6 webinars over a year. It's more big picture about running the fleet efficiently. We're not going to dig down into how do I get the best fuel mileage out of a DD13. That's just not going to happen in this program. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff I could do in the coaching program. In the CMC, I spend a lot of time on fuel mileage. So those are everything from just calling me on the show and listening here, which is free, to webinars that are free and courses that you could pay for or coaching that you could pay for.
So I'll definitely look into that. And so the main thing is I've been listening, and I've actually been starting specifically with the trucking efficiency and technology section from the beginning, like the first episodes that there are, because I want to like absorb all the knowledge and make sure I get it like up to date and start from like to try to understand certain things as you first explained them.
I will tell you this,
and
if you listen to enough of this show at no charge and you go back and you could listen on Tuesdays. We talk about a lot of maintenance stuff and fuel mileage. Business, we talk about a lot on Monday. If you're interested in health, we do that every Wednesday. You could go back and listen to all the free shows, and you will probably be able to learn about 90% of everything I teach without paying me a penny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think what Kevin's suggesting here is all a great idea. I have stuff out in social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on X that you can go look at. I typically, at least up until this point, I have not dealt with individual owner operators to any real degree. Every once in a while, I'll help a guy out with some specs really quick. Typically, I'm working with the OEMs at that level, and so I'm normally a little pricey for the individuals. But you can get on my social media accounts, and there's a ton of stuff if you have any interest in the Volvo platform that you can learn just by going through that and then doing the things with Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. The more the merrier. So what would that be, Joel
Morrow, and out on Facebook, MORROW. You find me on Facebook, you'll find me on LinkedIn, you'll find me on X, and I've got just a ton of stuff out there.
That's great. And these webinars that you mentioned, Kevin, where can I find those?
So if you want to be on the webinar today, there's still time to register today. Just go to letstruck.com. And right on the home page, you're going to see the program for today. Let me go make sure, because I know they've been doing some serious changes to our website right now. Click on events. And okay, so go to letstruck.com. You'll see events, click on events, and then you'll see the webinar and you can register. And that's coming up in just a little over an hour.
Oh, wow. So I made it just in time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. What?
So do you think by like listening to your podcast, the prior episodes, there's a lot of things that you guys talk about that is just, I struggle to understand because I don't know the fundamental concepts of them. Like, for example, like the drivetrain ratio, and like how certain transmissions affect like certain things, and depending on like the route you're running, how that can affect what spec that you're running and what specking even is, and like things like this. Do you think just by simply listening, I can come to understand that?
Joel, did you hear that?
Yeah, I think so. Even if you listen to the shows, you'll start to develop a basic idea, and then you can always call in on Fridays and get more clarification on things. I like to try to help the owner operator crowd as much as I can personally, but I get so damn busy with other things that it's really hard for me to break away
Yeah, of course.
to help people on an individual basis, and I would love to do it if I have the time, and I have done it with some folks when I have the time to do it, but I think that's probably your best bet. I would go back and listen to all of Friday shows, as many as you can, go through the webinars, and then just write down a list of questions and call in on Fridays, and we can answer some questions for sure.
All right, that's great. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
You're welcome. Well, lots of opportunities to learn. And Joel, don't you love it when somebody wants to learn?
Yeah. I mean, here's a guy that he's got a limited knowledge base, and he recognizes that, and he wants to learn more, and he's not pretending that he knows more than what he does, and that's awesome. I mean, that's where you got to go to make things work for sure.
Yep, love that. So a couple things I want to cover here, just odds and ends. They're just stuff that's been kind of hanging out all week that I wanted to get out. And one of them I just lost it. It probably doesn't matter. It frustrated the hell out of me anyway. But I was just gonna kind of the attitude that we have. Somebody actually posted, and this is a weird thing, but it still struck me funny. Somebody posted about they had some sort of crime occur in their house, like somebody was murdered, I think, or injured badly, and you've got blood and all this other stuff, and people are always shocked that they're responsible to get that stuff cleaned up. People are shocked, and that's what this point was all about.
Yeah.
And the point said, I can't believe it. The police and law enforcement was here, and they just left, and I have this mess I have to deal with, and I have to call some third party, or I have to do it myself. This country is so screwed up.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Wait, do you expect the police to do that? Who else is gonna clean it up? Of course you have to. Where did we get this entitlement mentality? That kind of thinking just makes me crazy. It's your house.
No,
I'm sorry
I'm with
something
you.
bad happened to you. That's not the point of this. But of course you have to clean it up. Who else is going to?
Right. Right.
It's just the whole attitude that people, and then our country's a mess because of that. Really? We have some things that are wrong, but that's not one of them. Then the other one, and this is a health thing, but I found this really interesting. You know how I feel about what kind of food we should be eating as human beings. We should be eating animals.
Sure.
Not many plants at all. And the more I do this, the more I am convinced plants are optional, and the fewer of them you eat, the healthier you're going to be. I had not heard
I agree.
I had not heard of this before, but I found this really interesting. So the story is about this guy who's been really active and healthy his whole life. He's a runner, but this tells me something. He says in his early 60s, my knees, toes, and aching hips told me it was time to trade races for elliptical machines. And you know what that tells me? It tells me he's eating the standard American diet, because if he wasn't, those kind of things don't wear out. We weren't made to wear out. So that tells me something. But he's healthier than the average person. He's not obese, very active. But then his doctor convinced him to go do a cardio scan, a calcium scan.
Yeah.
Scan results can be anywhere from 0 to 400. 0 is, you're healthy as a newborn. And I know a lot of people eating carnivore now that have 0 calcium scans. 400 is you've got a problem. You've got a real problem if your calcium score is at 400. His was 2,424. I didn't even know that was possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what it is? This is really interesting. Now, I was just going to blame it on, he's eating a very high carbohydrate diet. Obviously, he's not vegan, but he's very, very plant heavy. It turns out
I believe it.
It turns out that he actually, though, it's worse. He does have a genetic marker. This is something that is genetic, and he has a genetic marker that causes all of the plant sterols in his diet to harden in his arteries.
Wow.
This has nothing to do with saturated fat, nothing to do with cholesterol, nothing to do with eating too many animal products. It's the exact opposite. It is the plant sterols in his diet that are calcifying in his arteries. So here's what I would even venture to say. Had he been a hunter-gatherer, we wouldn't even know that there's a problem. None of this would occur. He would probably have a zero calcium score. And it's possible that this genetic mutation could have been an advantage in some way. Many times genetic mutations are actual advantages.
Right.
But on this one, because we now have been convinced that we should be eating all these plants, this one kind of turned into a death sentence.
Yeah, that's a little odd.
Yeah. So they put him on a statin.
For sure. Put him on a statin. There you go.
They put him on a statin.
Fix everything, ain't it?
Yep, that'll fix it. Right. Yeah. Isn't that just crazy? Yeah. All right. That's all I've got for the week. I got to go get ready for a webinar.
Gotcha. Sounds good. I got to run over to my brother's place. I got some stuff I got to take care of over there. So
you got to get some sleep.
At some point, yeah. At some point.
All right. I know how that goes.
All right, man.
Thanks as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Friday.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right, everybody. We will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.